Flame on!
Flame on, everybody. How's everybody doing? I'm here with my special guest, Nick Lenz. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good.
Good, man. I just hope you had a happy new year with you and yours. And just how you doing?
I'm doing good. I went to my brother's place for New Year's for the weekend.
Hey,
Not this past weekend, but the weekend prior for New Year's.
I understand. But today, instead of we're extending Anime Blaze to next week due to scheduling conflicts, but to
Mm-hmm.
substitute for that, we're going to discuss the subplot of the infamous and arguably notorious Gotham War.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Nick, do you want to give a quick review of the storyline, or you just want to get right into it?
The storyline is that, well, the whole Gotham War is that Catwoman and Batman basically fight each other. Well, in this war over basically a lover's spat. Oh, and this kind of all stems from with the fact that Catwoman left him at the altar. We'll get to the stupid stuff involving that in a minute. And the fact that we also had stuff related to Vandal Savage buying the Wayne Manor, which that was probably the most interesting thing that happened in that whole storyline. And the fact that kind of took over the storyline halfway through. Did you notice that?
I did. It took up a huge chunk because this was literally a 5-book this was over the course of 5 books. You had Batman, Detective Comics, Catwoman. I believe Nightwing got a tie-in issue, if I remember correctly, in the
Not
Alpha
really.
and Omega.
It was just, from what I remember, it was just Batman, Catwoman, Red Hood miniseries, which is 2 issues, and 2 one-shots, and that was it.
Alpha and Omega, okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Same thing happened with Fear State.
I
Except
see.
the main story for that one was only in 1 book with tie-ins in all the books, except for Robin, because he was out of the country, and Joker. Those 2 are the only 2 did not tie into Fear State because they were out of the country at the time. Now, the whole romance thing, some people can blame the recent stuff on Tom King, but the whole thing of Catwoman and Batman being in a serious relationship, this has been on and off since the early 2000s.
Because you remember in the Silver Age, they were married for a time, and that was basically Golden Age, excuse me, Golden Age.
Yeah, that was ultimate reality. That was revealed in the 70s when they got married, and they had a daughter, Helena Wayne, who became the Huntress, and also had her own backup feature in Wonder Woman.
For some reason.
Yeah, I thought that was weird. Like, you would think, Huntress, a Batman character, like, oh, maybe she should feature into the comics. Nope. She did kind of do a team up in Batman Family, though. And no, I'm not talking about the series that came out in the early 2000s. I'm talking about the one in the 70s. The one that lasted 20 issues. And from what I heard, it was actually selling better than the Detective Comics was.
Really?
So the plan at the time was to cancel Detective and keep Batman Family going. But then they changed their mind and just moved their features in that book over Detective and made Detective bigger. And the book ended after only just 20 issues. It was a good book. I read it. Some of the issues been collected in trade. Like, I think like some of the stuff been collected, like there was a Bronze Age Batgirl's been collected in. Same thing for Robin. I think even also for the Huntress book that they collected there as well. Of course, people think of Huntress nowadays. People think of, well, not just her, because basically that version is open Jeff John just said America, but we also have Helena Bertinelli, the post-crisis Huntress, who's been around since the late 80s, and created by the same people. Yes. Joe Cavalieri, and there was, I think it was Paul Levitz who created this one too. She had a brief ongoing series in the late 80s, and then she became sort of a recurring character in Batman comics, and she's been that way ever since then. She's had a couple more miniseries since then of her own. In the last few years, she's been Like, what has she done? She's been in Grayson. She's been in Nightwing briefly as Huntress. Well, first in Grayson as Agent Zero because they decided to bring in Spiral, which some Grant Morrison came up with. And then they had her become Huntress with Rebirth. And in the last few years, when Margaret Tamagagi was in the book, she was a recurring character in that book. And currently, I think she's appearing in Birds of Prey. Currently, I think she's back over there now after being in the back of Birds of Prey book. The storyline that I mentioned, where this kind of started with, was the popular Jeff Loeb, Jim Lee storyline, Hush. You ever read that storyline, Jay?
I have. Now, that's a notorious storyline when it came out, but looking back, it kind of devalues over time because looking back, you could have seen the mystery coming from a mile away.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to recommend, briefly want to talk about the animated movie for the DCAMU, where I get what they were going for. They didn't want to make it too convoluted.
And I believe one major change they made to it is they had Damien to move because he was not in the original storyline.
No, that was Tim Drake.
Okay.
Tim Drake, excuse me.
Yeah, but I think in the movie they added Damien because I think he was in the movie too. Because I haven't seen the movie yet, but I did notice in the credits Damien is in the movie.
He is. I think it's a cameo, basically. But
which is something because he was not in the original story because he wasn't. The reason he wasn't created yet. He didn't come out. Wasn't created 3 years later by Grant Morrison. Well, technically he's a reinvention of a character from the 80s, but still, Grant Morrison is kind of one people credited for creating Damian Wayne.
Technically, Jason Barr, I believe his name is Jason Barr, is the creator of the modern concept of the Son of Batman when it was first taken seriously.
You mean Michael W. Burr? Jason Barr was a character from Batman comics.
Okay, thank you for clearing that up for me, Nick.
Yeah, but Michael W. Barr. Some of you, if you don't know who this guy is, he is the creator of The Outsiders, which means he's also the creator of Katana and Geoforce. No, he did not create Black Lightning. That was somebody else. Metamorpho. That was somebody else. Basically, anything associated with The Outsiders they think of nowadays, that was him, and the late Jim Aparo. And Mike Debber has worked on Batman comics, so he did do a one-shot in the 80s known as Son of the Bat, but that was like a baby, and then Grant Morrison kind of reintroduced basically the person we now know as Damian Wayne. That's something Grant Morrison and I believe it was Andy Kubert was the artist who did that storyline in the Batman Son story arc of Batman, which they loosely adapted for
his run.
Excuse me. They adapted for the very first Batman movie of the DC, those Animated Universe movies, the very first one they did, where they adapted
one of the first ones.
Yeah, one of the first ones. Set in a universe that started with Justice League. It was Justice League like what was that? Just like it was the Formation Justice League, that one.
Justice League War.
Justice League War, where they adapted the very first story arc of Jeff John Justice League, and the movie is notorious for adding a lot of swearing, altering Wonder Woman's outfit for no reason, and making the president white, despite the fact at the time when the comic came out was Barack Obama in the book.
Well, based on Barack Obama, but yes, that is true.
Yeah, and they switched out Aquaman for Captain Marvel. That one I did not get the reason why they did that.
2 reasons.
It just
I can go ahead. I hate to cut you off, Nick, but that I could the Aquaman IP, despite gaining some major notoriety in recent years from Peter David and in Jeff Johns runs respectively, Aquaman still doesn't have a strong IP, especially across multimedia platforms. And the Super Friends, when he was comedic relief for that series, didn't do him any favors.
Where the joke was, he can drive a jet ski and he can talk to fish. Despite that, he can also you think a little fish. No, he could actually have a freaking megalodon if he wanted to. Because in Justice League War, in the original storyline, he summoned a megalodon to basically eat parademons. Which that would have been awesome to see, but nope. They decided to do Shazam. They kept the Marvel instead, and they called him Shazam. This other, that's not his name.
They have to do that because of copy. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nick.
The whole thing with that is that if the copyright thing is for the name of the comic book itself, not the character. Some people at DC thought, oh, maybe the character too. No, Mark Waid corrected this with his run for Shazam by calling him the Captain, which I had no problem with that. Just don't call him Shazam because that's the name of the wizard, and that's also the word he says when he transforms into this character. Though they also, in the current continuity, made it where Mary Marvel is not his biological sister; they're adopted.
And just like that, I'm getting CW Flash vibes. Excuse me a moment.
Well, the person you can blame for that is Jeff Johns because he's the one who created this backstory for. He's the one who technically brought in Catwoman of the current continuity as a backup feature for Justice League before he joined the Justice League and has had about 3 titles since then. He did one. He did one himself. There was the miniseries that Tim Sheridan did, and the current book. The Tim Sheridan book was okay. I don't think it was terrible. I do think New Champion Shazam was not that good. You know, the one written by Joseph Campbell, who was also currently writing Amazon's Attack, which I have made a joke, and some people may agree with me on this. The only reason why she was hired because it was nominated by GLAAD for an award. That's
pretty much. She's a career credit hire. That's the only reason. Let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah, in the case of someone like Julia Wilson was nominated too, but she actually has some work behind her. She has done comics before she got that award. Because I think she got nominated when she did Poison Ivy.
I want to say it was Poison Ivy, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh, you eat McDonald's.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Yes, I work there. Not the one you went to, but I do work at McDonald's. But
product placement aside,
Catwoman did join Justice League. I think he joined Justice League just after Forever Evil. It was just afterwards because he was not exactly a member when Trinity War started, but he did join afterwards. But Batman Catwoman has had sort of this on and off relationship for years. Tom King kind of brought it back fully, kind of, but they kind of brought it back when Joe Winnick was on like Catwoman.
Oh, the foundation's been there for years. Joe Winnick, I would argue Winnick is more credited with reconciling Batman and Catwoman more than Tom King is.
Yeah, but he has come on and said the reason why his run turned the way it did, why it was so sexual. It was editor's idea. Editorial mandate. That's the reason why it ended up like that. So I know you probably want to do late night thing, but that was editorial's fault, not him. So I am basically
allow me to do the honors. Sex sells. Now, if you excuse me, I have a banner to change.
Yeah, because I knew you were going to do that because basically, if everything gets something like that, you would put up the late night banner. But this is something Joe Winnick has stated in public that was editorial who wanted him to do that, not him, because he has done good comics. So he is not to blame what happened during his run for Catwoman.
Nope. Sometimes you got to answer the editorial. I mean, and the 5G in of itself is perfect proof of that.
Yes, and the first year of New 52 was notorious for editorial interference. With the exception of a few books, there were a few books that basically you didn't see that at all because the book was so good. Batman
and Green
Justice
Lantern.
League. Yeah, Green Lantern. I think Nightwing did suffer through either.
Somewhat.
I think mostly the Bat books, except for Red and the Outlaws, is the only one that did suffer through a little bit. But a lot of the books were basically heavily. The only reason these books were bad because editors kept interfering in the books. The most notorious example of this was Superman and Green Arrow. where for Green Arrow in 6 issues, this book went through 3 writers. Yes, seriously. And it wasn't until Ann decided to go right afterwards. She actually was the first writer to stay on more than a few issues. She was on the book for a whole year. And then Lemire took on the book, and of course, people love Lemire's run for the book for Green Arrow. But in the case of the Catwoman stuff, for some reason, whenever she gets involved, whenever Batman Crosses comes, it's like she's not a main player in it. Like Night of Owls, for example. She's not a main player in that one. Or Death of Family. She's kind of a player in Gotopia. It was that last story that John Layman did before he left the book.
Now
the one where it's like,
I know.
Oh, Gotham's all nice and shiny, and it's revealed the Scarecrow is responsible for all this. I'm like, Really? The Scarecrow? This is something he wouldn't do, but Scarecrow was behind that storyline.
Apparently.
But surprisingly, she did play a tiny part in a tie-in for Zero Year. Endgame, she didn't do anything for that one at all. Not that I could think of.
Not that I recall either, but correct us if we're wrong in the comments.
Yeah. She did not give up 9 months, but she was actually absent for that because she wasn't there. Because that happened just after the opening story arc of Tom King's Batman run. Which that story was really good, by the way.
I am Monster Man, and then you had I am Gotham, I am Suicide. That's the actual title of the storyline. Let me express that. That is the actual title of the storyline.
Yeah, well, the storyline is basically Batman taking his own version of the Suicide Squad, which is comprised of Bronze Tiger, the Ventriloquist.
I believe Deadshot was on that team too, or am I
No, he was on the main team. This is Batman's version. Punch and Judy. Yeah, they're in the book. And Catwoman's part of the team. Now, her being there sets us up basically, we see later on, where she's in Arkham Asylum. And the thing is, the only reason why Batman's able to get her because Punch posed as Commissioner Gordon. Yes. And Catwoman was accused of something that you would think is completely not true. The killing of 300 people. Like, what? When did this happen? And then she gets involved with I Am Suicide Squad. And the reason Batman is doing this team is because he wants to go to Singapore, Bane's home country, to get the Psycho Pirate. Because he screwed up with the mind of Gotham Girl. Because he wants to get him back to fix her. So he takes his team, and miraculously also survives by someone supposedly died, but they'll come back. And also Bane has this weird thing in the book. You remember what Bane was wearing in that storyline, right?
I remember. I'm not going to spoil it here, but I do remember.
Yes. Where here's a joke. Where's your pants? Yes, and
thank God I'm a small channel.
Yes, where he's like, and of course, like Batman's like, "I'm gonna break your back, Bane," and Bane breaks his back. He fixes it, his own back, and then he actually goes with a promise. He breaks Bane's back, and then the first thing he says, well, after that, of course, like his men's like, "You need anything, boss?" "Yes." "Give me my venom." I remember one of you was like, "Also bring me some pants." Yes, and then here's the thing: it was supposed to lead to I Am Bane, but we had the 2-parter Rooftops, where we have Batman and Catwoman chasing each other in Gotham, beating up Phil Freak, the Condiment King, basically a bunch of C-listers.
Like, if not D-listers.
Yeah, I mean, at least Film Freak, like Condiment King, he's the most hilarious bad villain of all. Surprisingly, Catwoman was not in this storyline. They basically like any like old school D-list Bat villain, he showed up in the storyline. And then right afterwards, we had the awesomest that was I Am Bane. Now, I spoke to Dave Finch about this storyline because you read it, it's like it's a complete leveler to Nightfall. And according to Finch, that was done on purpose. Because he brought back his henchmen from that storyline, like the Birdman.
Yeah.
Like they brought them all back, which this was it was like a reverse Nightfall because the whole thing is like Bane chase after Batman. And of course you have Psycho Pirate because Gotham Girl was in sessions with Psycho Pirates because Psycho Pirates screwed her mind.
Yes.
So during sessions, Bane shows up and supposedly gets defeated. The conclusion of the storyline was weird. It just stopped. And then we had I think what happened next. Then we had a team up with Swamp Thing.
We did. And I believe we had a cat fight with Selena and Talia that went about for 2 or 3 issues.
Yeah, that happened just before War Joke. Because the reason why that happened, because they wanted to go after Holly Robinson. Some of you don't know who is Holly Robinson. She is a character who is Catwoman's closest friends. She showed up back in the 80s, supposedly died, and Bermaker brought it back for his run. And she, one point, was briefly Catwoman during that run.
Yep.
The reason why? Because Catwoman became a mom. And then
yes,
it's kind of weird. They did like as a post 1 year time skip, basically when she became Catwoman. And then she left the book, and then she popped up in Sirens briefly, and then she didn't show up again for a long time, and then she shows up here when Batman Talia goes see Selena go see Talia to get Holly, and apparently Holly was the one responsible for all those killings.
Because
they kind of explain why, and then go ahead.
So basically, they retconned Holly when Holly took up after Infinite Crisis. The 1 year time gap afterward. Holly had taken over the mantle because Selena had allegedly gone pregnant and went into hiding, effectively abandoning the mantle. And during that year, I guess she lost her mind and went on a living spree. They never directly made it clear. They insinuate a lot, but they don't make it clear.
Yeah, and then of course, this is also when Batman had proposed to Catwoman.
Yep.
Just prior to this. And then after apparently Talia gets about Catwoman, Talia tells Batman, oh, I like her. Basically, she's accepting her as Batman.
Even though wife.
Okay. Yeah, she accepts her. Like, that's what she says in the storyline. And then, like, not long after that, we had the War of Jokes and Riddles. I enjoyed this storyline. I don't know why some people didn't.
Because it's convoluted. It's supposed to be the early days of Batman and arguably one of the few times he screwed up at the city's expense. And despite this great tragedy, it was Joker and Riddle. It was Riddler of all people. Riddler gave you this much of a hard time when you pretty much outmaneuvered and beat the crap out of him in 0 year. Riddler gave you this much of a hard time a couple years down the road.
Yeah, and also they brought in Deathstroke in the storyline, Deadshot, which seems
that was forced. That was forced.
Yeah. Now, I have also heard Tom King being accused in this storyline of making the dialogue between Batman and Catwoman be robotic. I've read the dialogue. It didn't seem robotic to me. I'm not sure people get that from.
I'll agree it's a little bland, but I wouldn't say it's robotic.
Yeah, I've heard people accuse him of that because for their relationship. And then, like, right after War Jokes Rose, they once again have the proposal. She agrees. I'm trying to think what happened next. Because War Jokes Rose, that took a bit of time. That was like, what, about 7 issues, I think it was? 7, 8 issues? It was a lengthy storyline.
Yeah, very lengthy storyline. And I believe we got the setup to City of Bane like right afterward. There might have been one more story arc in between. I just can't remember right now.
Yeah, and then we had the bill for the wedding. The wedding never happened.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
Now, before we
go ahead.
Sorry, but allegedly, now this is just an alleged rumor. This was never officially confirmed, but allegedly the shift into Tom King issue 50 and the whole lead up was supposed to be set up for 5G. And then you have Bruce being emotionally distraught from Selena leaving him. They reconcile on a private island, as we see in the later storyline. Alfred dies. Bruce cuts a deal with the Joker that if he unalives Bane form in Retribution, Joker will vow to leave town, never show his face again. And Batman Dark Detective was supposed to be Bruce's redemption arc.
Yeah, before they changed it. Like I heard that the Batman Detective series were originally called Batman: The Dark Knight before they changed to Batman Detective. And also, like some people tend to think like now the thing is, Tom King unjustly gets blamed for the death of Al Pennyworth. That was not his idea. He was going to do fake out, but actually kill him. Nope, that was not his idea. From what I heard, that was all editor. That was all editorial mandate.
Yep.
Yep. So those of you who blame him for killing Alfred, that's not his fault. That's not what he wanted to do. He has stated in an interview since then that it was supposed to be a fake out, not an actual death.
But I get why editorial, and no doubt so they could sell issues, but more so from a story perspective, because this is supposed to be a very older gentleman, older than Bruce Wayne, arguably older than Ma and Pa Kent, and a very strong supporting character for the Bat family dynamic, and he's still around.
I think it's supposed to be the 60s or 70s.
60s, 70s. But
and he's a parent too.
Yeah,
which is
because you
something
forget
that apparently writers nowadays
forget about.
Yes, because the last time she showed up in the comic was Batwoman by Margaret Bennett. That was the last time she showed up. And the thing is, she's black. Okay, whatever. And from what I've read, also the government, the military force she's part of in the comics, in real life at that point, women were not allowed to join that group in the UK.
Really?
Later on, it was accepted, but at the time, nope, they were not allowed. I had no problem with changing her skin color because she was the Flashpoint. She's one character I don't mind because she's not that big of a character in comics, so I didn't have an issue with it. Did you have an issue with her changing skin color? Because originally Julie Pennyworth was white.
I barely even know. I just looked up Julia Pennyworth one day and I'm like, oh, they did change her. But yeah, she's a relatively small IP. No one's really going to make a big stint about it because
like
it's not really
like they did with Wally West.
Yeah, that was now, believe it or not, that was more so synergy with the CW show more than anything. But you could make the race argument if you really reached.
I think that came up prior to his appearance on CW. I think it did. Venditti himself, I spoke to him about the fact that Savitar is loose based upon his Blue Flash. He told me he was not happy with the fact that CW did that. Well, he took a character he created, along with character Mark Waid created, merged them together, and came up with what we have for Savitar. So he was not happy with it, but apparently Josh Williamson, he had no problem with the CW did with Godstorm.
Godspeed.
Yeah,
because
Godspeed.
Again, it's a relatively new character and he's getting some prominence. So I feel like Joshua Williamson would have been happy either way.
Yeah, but in the case of the whole thing with Savitar thing, you can probably get why Venditti was not happy with the way they did it because that was not what he came with in the original comic book at all. Because it was not supposed to be a merge with a different character. He's not look like a. And you ever heard the comparison? People thought he was like a version of Megatron on Flash.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah,
I
and
do
the
remember when that was going
at
around.
the time. Again, an evil speedster. We had enough of evil speedsters with the previous two seasons. We had with something else. Like for season 4, we had Thinker, who was not an evil speedster, but we did feature evil speedster that season. But he was not the main villain. That was the rival, who was a Golden Age Flash villain. Which, as of right now, the Flash TV show before it ended, he used practically all the evil Flashes except one.
And that's
Wallace West's father, Daniel West.
Oh, Daniel West. He is a version of Reverse. Yeah, but I see why they didn't use him though. I do see that.
It's interesting. I get Eobard Thawne because he's popular. I think he's so popular. He's been popular for decades. the whole thing with him where he's like, oh, he killed Nora Allen in the past. That was a recent Jeff Johns did, so that's not been established since like the Silver Age. That was something that was established last decade. So that was Jeff Johns' retcon.
Yep.
So I didn't mind that at all. The Williamson we ended this run, he basically had it where he kind of like wrote him out of existence at the end of his run.
Yep.
Because he probably felt as though that the rivalry between the two of them had gone on long enough. So it was time to end it for good. And since then, Eobard Thawne has not been in comics since his run wrapped up. And that was like 3 years ago that his run wrapped up.
Yep.
Like 3-4 years ago. It's not that long ago. It's surprising how long they came out of comics now.
It is.
Yep. Somebody might be curious. The Reverse Flash, Batman, aside from Flashpoint, outside of that, not that I can think of. He's never met Reverse Flash.
They had a brief skirmish, and with
no,
the Button.
He hasn't. Yeah, and the Button, but aside from that, there's been no major interaction between the two of them at all. It's almost like basically he was playing something with these two, but not thinking of it. If you think about it, like, can you name one Flash villain who's had a fight with Batman?
Captain Cold. What's another one? Captain Cold, Heat Wave. They've had a tussle with Batman once or twice.
Maybe Captain Boomerang.
Captain Boomerang, definitely. Maybe Trickster, but I could be wrong.
But not many of them. Reverse Flash is not one basically who's Tingo Batman. Like prior to the Button, these two never met each other before at all. Well, I'm not counting Flashpoint because that was alternate timeline. And plus that was Thomas Wayne, not Bruce Wayne.
Speaking of which, that's a great segue to City of Bane. Arguably the worst Batman storyline of the past decade.
I kind of liked it, but prior to this storyline, we had Thomas Wayne come back.
We did.
Yeah, I thought this was interesting because you think, wait, wasn't Flashpoint erased and then it comes back? Like, it was like, it's kind of explained that Dr. Manhattan brought it back.
Yes, and then the timeline expanded, correct, because that was a Doom timeline. It was a dark timeline, which was inevitably going to collapse anyway.
Yes.
And Thawne plucked them out of it pretty much out of spite because Thawne's a living paradox.
Yeah, as for how he got to the main timeline, and Tom King never really explained. He just randomly showed up just after the wedding and fought him, and that kind of one of the reasons why he left Gotham City. But not long after the wedding, aside from that, we had the controversial Batman 55.
Yep, the Rick Grayson arc.
Well, this kind of indirectly started it when Dick Grayson got shot in the head because, according to rumor, Dan DiDio hated all the Dick jokes. So, get rid of Dick Grayson, make him Rick Grayson for, I think it was like a year.
He was 2 years. 2 years.
Yes, by far, in my honest opinion, you might agree with me, the worst creative decision they've ever done for Nightwing in his history of his character.
The only one I could say that's objectively worse was the original plan to kill him off with the chemo explosion in Bloodhaven, before someone in the editorial staff actually had the balls to tell him, no, this is a bad idea. This is the golden boy of our brand, arguably the sidekick of a generation who had actually grown into his own. You kill this character off, there are going to be riots in the comic book stores.
Yes, and also Chuck Dixon himself has told me he was not happy what happened after the crisis when they had Chemical dropped on Bloodhaven, killing all of his characters he spent 6 years creating.
Arguably 7.
Yeah, all except for Lady Vic. Isn't that weird that she was the only one who survived that explosion?
I'm surprised too.
Yeah, like her and people with Tarantula, they were the two who survived besides Dick Grayson because she was around even after that storyline wrapped up because she last appeared in Secret Six, Gail Simone's
Yep.
Secret Six, where she died.
Yep.
She was left for dead, and she wasn't heard from again until Ben Percy brought her back for his first story arc for Green Arrow.
Okay, and then she was used again for Adam Glass Teen Titans, but I think she was killed off in that issue.
I don't remember her being in that run. I remember her being in Ben Percy's run, but like, really? Why would you bring back a character who long-time fans know is a rapist?
But we're talking about Lady Vic or Tarantula.
Tarantula.
Okay, I was about to say no. Tarantula was not in excuse me, Adam Glass's Teen Titans. That was Lady Vic, but
Yeah, Lady Vic, believe it or not, she actually first appeared in Batwing post Flashpoint. Where she appeared when Luke Fox was Batwing.
Okay.
And Lady Vic is now a lesbian.
Okay.
Aside from that, they haven't done much with her since then. I appreciate the fact that the artist who did that storyline actually kept her costume. Because, New 52, like all brand spanking new costumes. She was one of those rare ones who had no costume change. The only one I could think of aside from her is Ragman. When he showed him Batgirl, he kept the same costume. No change with him. I think even Damien kept the same costume too. Because he is one character aside from Green Lantern. He was the only one completely unaltered thanks to Flashpoint.
I think they gave him more of an armored aesthetic going into Rebirth, but other than that, his Batman Incorporated costume and his New 52 costume leading to Batman and Robin is exactly the same. I'm pretty sure it's completely unaltered.
I've heard that his character history has mostly been intact. The only thing they changed is how he was conceived. Because in pre-Flashpoint, Talia drugged Batman. And they had a one-night stand on the Tropic of Cancer. In post-Flashpoint, it was consensual.
And this is largely because, and I hate to cut you off, Nick, this was largely because Grant Morrison, he/they, I'm respecting their pronouns, allegedly did not take the time to read Son of the Demon before canonizing Damien.
Yeah, as far as I can tell, Grant Morrison's still a guy. As far as I can tell, he's never done anything like that I can think of. Okay, I've never met the guy. Yeah, I never met the guy, but his most recent thing I saw him involved with when he did Green Lantern, which I actually like his Green Lantern stuff. Did you read his Green Lantern stuff that he did?
I did. I
love it what he did with Green Lantern. That was a lot of fun. A shame that was the only comic book Green Lantern at that point. And they call it the Green Lantern. You want to talk about basically the what Tom King got after Batman 50?
After Batman 50, Tom King got a pity series called Batman. I believe it was Catwoman and Batman, where it was basically an anthology of his remaining 15 issues in his contract because he was originally promoted to have 100 issues by the end of his run. And it's kind of a bloated mess.
85.
Yep, he did leave after issue 85.
Yeah, but before that, but in the case of Batman 50, it is one of, from what I heard, one of 2 times Tom King got death threats. Do you know what the air book was he got death threats for? And I didn't know anything about this until Linkara did a review of it. Heroes in Crisis.
That I can believe.
Yeah.
Because what they did to Wally West, people...
Not just that. The fact that he got a lot of flack for not handling mental stress very well. How characters handle mental disorders very well in the book. He got a lot of flack for that. And he has apologized for a lot of the stuff related to that book since then. He's regretted doing that book. I know original book was called Sanctuary, not Heroes in Crisis, and the characters were supposed to be different. No denying the best thing about that series is the artwork. Clayman did an excellent job with that book.
I agree. I agree.
Which,
Tom King,
speaking of Clayman, he actually did the Batman Catwoman book. Yes,
I'm glad he was a good sport. I'm glad he was a good sport and was able to help Tom King out during that time.
Yes. Now, when the first issue was supposed to come out in January 2020, and then it got delayed for a year, not because of COVID. That COVID happened 2.5 months later. That happened in March. This was in January. It was supposed to come out in January, and then it got delayed by a whole year. Do not know the reason for it. I will talk to Tom King about this when I see him next at Mankind Orlando.
Hey, feel free to ask him a few questions for me.
Yes. And then the book came out. Book was publishing perfectly fine, and like half of the book took like 2 months off for some reason because Black Label's got this stupid thing where they can't keep books on time for some strange reason. And the book he put out a special. You know what's that? They put out a special. I think it was also a backup story in an annual.
I believe so.
This series is also noteworthy for introducing a character that was first introduced in Mask the Phantasm. And it was Anna Beaumont, I believe her name was.
Anna Beaumont.
Yeah, Anna Beaumont. Yeah, basically Tom King made her canon because it's implied this book is canon to the main DC timeline. That's what her name was. Because
at least
Black Label's got this back and forth thing where the book or not is canon. This book, I believe, is supposed to be canon. Along with Three Jokers, which that one is definitely canon because they're trying to bring it up in Batman.
But whether or not they're going to allude to the same Three Joker concept in Black Label or they're going to make their own canon spin on it is to be revealed.
Yeah. Now, the book itself did not last 15 issues. It lasted for 12. And I think that the remaining issues maybe have been for that Batman annual and the special. Because the special was like a double-sized special. And it came out during the run. It wasn't like a double-sized conclusion. It was basically a special for the run because, well, gotta make money in the series, release a special because, well, the regular series produced annuals, so why not have a limited series produced special? Because one thing I've noticed, though, this is probably like one of like 2 limited series I've seen in the last few years to put out a special because normally these series don't do this at all.
They do not. They do not.
Yes, this is also one of the problems DC's had the last few years where there is just way too many Batman limited series. Like, they had I think at one point in 1 year, they must have had 7 limited series in 1 year. Some being 6, 7, or some even 12 or 10 issues. And this was 12.
Seriously, like the Batman, for some reason, the other characters aren't very prominent sales-wise. I don't know if it's a relative decline in DC or just Batman is just that much stronger of an IP in comparison. I honestly couldn't tell you. But
you would think, now the way it is nowadays, you would think that Superman and Green Arrow might be up there because those books have been really good. And
quality books.
Joshua Williamson promotes the heck out of it on Twitter.
Yeah. And say what you will about Dark Crisis, but Dark Crisis was too big of an assignment for Joshua Williamson. He's a guy who focuses on character growth. He's not really an event guy.
Yes, as far as I can tell, that's probably the only book I can think of he's working on for DC that is not as good as their books. It's not terrible. It's just a bit disappointing.
Because, again, a lot of it was just death metal calling a do-over and all the universal shakeups with 5G falling apart. Williamson made the best out of a bad situation. Let me just say that.
One thing I do disagree with that series is killing off Deathstroke.
Wait, I thought Deathstroke was sedated and teased to be in this Titans 03 exosuit. They actually killed Deathstroke off?
Yes.
I completely misinterpreted that ending.
And supposedly Roz got killed off in Shadow War, and then he shows up again in Flashpoint, Flashpoint Beyond, alive and well.
Because apparently Damian Wayne Robin's current girlfriend, and yes, I will do a video on this, flatline, and this wasn't a tie into Lazarus Planet. was called to by an urn, or at least a version of his partial of Raish's spirit that was sealed in an urn. Good Raish probably did this before he was killed in Shadow War. Basically, reached out to her because her gimmick is that she can sense and is enticed by death. And Nika and Flatline released the urn.
Is it something though that the whole thing with Shadow War happened because of Bendis?
Yep, because of Event Leviathan. Yep.
Which I like that event. I know Tivia is not a fan of it. I actually liked Event Leviathan.
Go ahead. I'll let you cook.
Yeah, because I love the artwork for it. Alex Maleev did a really good job with the book. The package ship Checkmate. Plus, the reveal of Leviathan Mark Shaw. That was quite interesting because he is not somebody I would expect to be turned to a bad guy. Mark Shaw?
The Manhunter?
Yeah. You would expect him. And here's something that DC has never put out about this character. He's a creation of Jack the King Kirby.
Excuse Jack Kirby, you say?
Yep. Let me list some more characters DC Comics he created. Etrigan the Demon. Caloran the Witch Boy. The New Gods. All of them except for a handful of them. Except for Trident, that was Mr. Priest, Grell, and Mr. Miracle's son.
Okay.
From the Mr. Miracle book by Tom King.
Okay.
That is not a Jack Kirby character. I'm trying to think who else is Atlas. The guy who showed up prior to, if you ever read New Krypton, he created him. I believe it was named codename Assassin. The one who showed up in that story, he's also Jack Kirby character. Dubalix. You know, the guy looked like an alien who worked for Cannabis.
Yep.
Yeah, he's also created Jack Kirby.
Okay.
I'm trying to think who else was it. It was Bruno Magnum of Intergang. That's also Jack Kirby character.
All right. The more you know.
Dan Turpin. Remember the detective from Superman the Animated Series?
Yep, I remember Dan Turpin.
He's a Jack Kirby character. And is it interesting, though, he got killed off by another Jack Kirby character in the series, Darkseid. I'm trying to think where character. Oh, he created a version of the Sandman. This was Garrett Sands. This is a brief series in the 80s. Who actually appeared for Neil Gaiman Sandman. I'm trying to think what characters he created for DC. Kamandi. Kamandi is one of his characters. The Guardian. The first two Manhunters also created too. Dan Richards and Paul Kirk. They're definitely his characters too. So they created a good number of characters. A lot of them, some of them people do know of, but a lot of them people don't know of. Demon, people know who he is. Demon is it's somewhat popular, but people do know who Demon is, but people don't associate him with Jack Kirby. You think, really? Jack Kirby created a demon? He's a horror character. Jack Kirby does sci-fi stuff. But yeah, he created a demon. Yep. And Jason Blood.
But that wonderful display of trivia aside, I believe our main point stems from, was it too... Now, say what you will about Catwoman, need to prop up their numbers a bit, and hence why the storyline happened. But would you say trying to recontextualize Batman and Catwoman's relationship as a subplot to Gotham War was a bad idea in your opinion?
Yes, because of all the stuff going on. Do we really need to have a romance? Like, this is something you can say after the storyline wrapped up, not during it.
I agree. That's a fair criticism.
Yeah, and now Vandal Savage is doing his own subplot afterwards. I think he's been appearing also in Batman, which is kind of weird, the fact Vandal Savage appearing in Batman, because he is not a Batman villain. He's a and this people forget about the character, because this is a character who's constantly fought the JSA and the Justice League for years. The first comic he printed was a comic that featured Alan Scott, the Green Lantern. It was Green Lantern number 10 back in the 40s.
Wait, he's an Alan Scott villain?
Yes. He's not the only one. Do you want who else? Basically, people confuse me about villain.
By all means. Who?
Solomon Grundy.
Okay, that I should have seen coming.
Yeah, it's kind of weird though. Two major characters associated with Alan Scott are associated with Batman. Isn't that weird? And heck, they put Solomon Grundy in Arkham City, which
Probably
I thought was really strange.
Same, but the DCAU, the 90s and early 2000s cartoon, was pretty successful and synonymous with Batman. So that I somewhat understand. Solomon Grundy, I understand, but I did not know Vandal Savage debuted as an Alan Scott villain. I did not know that.
Here's something else. Do you remember the character Count Vertigo?
Yes.
For some reason, they have him show up on Batman, despite the fact
he's a Green Arrow villain.
Yeah.
Like, okay, there are two versions of Green Arrow. They both have the same powers, but one is just a generic C-list supervillain, and the other is a political noble from a fictional country who pulled a power play against his brother and his wife, which led to the Princess Perdita. This, I believe, this is strictly Young Justice. I don't know if this was canonized or not, but yeah. And it basically Scar from the Lion King is what I'm basically surmising.
That also they used for the Green Arrow short, which, fun fact, guess who voiced Green Arrow in that short?
Who?
The guy that played Damien Dark from Arrow.
Wait. The Damien Dark man, that guy has range. I couldn't tell it was him.
Yeah, it was him. Yeah, and for some reason they also had Count Vertigo pop up on the Batman as well. Except that one was an ex-employee of Queen Industries, which I thought was really weird. I'm like, really? He's a foreigner. Why the heck is he working for Queen Industries?
I believe because the episode was trying to tell a begruntled employee type story.
Yes.
Something along those lines.
Yeah, and here's also a character people think is a Batman villain, but actually is a Green Arrow villain.
Clock King?
Yep. The current continuity's got two different Clock Kings?
Yep.
The William Talking Clock King from Jeff Lemaire's Green Arrow, who's still around. And the other is the one that popped up in the early issues of Christopher Priest's Deathstroke run. As I can tell, that's the version because he's wearing the Silver Age costume.
Yep.
Now, do not know the reason for this. Like, why in the world that they would have two versions of Clock King around the same time? Don't know. It's weird. Like, he's a Green Arrow villain, and yet this version's never fought Green Arrow.
Wait, did both of them ever wear the Batman Brave and the Bold costume, where it's basically the giant clock helmet on top of their head?
The one from Deathstroke wore the costume. I think he did have the helmet, but he didn't wear it in the comic. He was basically on life support in the comic. He was like in the first couple issues of the book. For reasons I'm not really sure why Christopher Priest brought him in. But Priest had a good run anyways, but it was weird. Like, why would you bring in the Clock King? And it's the pre-Flashpoint Clock King, not the one that Jeff Lemire came up with.
But with all that being said, in my opinion, I get you also want this was a direct collab between the two writers, and Catwoman definitely needed the boost because half of it was Selina in Blackgate brooding and grieving her rebound lover, basically.
Who got killed in issue 50. It was like not long after Tina Howard started the book, she created this character pretty much from the start. Then he gets killed off issue 50. And then like she's in jail for a while and then she's out.
I think she broke out technically, if I remember.
Yeah, and for some reason, I'm not sure why the heck Tina Howard did this for. She's the current writer of the book.
Okay.
They made Punchline one of her villains.
They're really trying to salvage that character, isn't she? I thought she was just going to amount to nothing more than a Harley Quinn ripoff or a parallel to Harley Quinn. And they're like, oh, honey. And then you could have had Harley.
Basically, for this character, it's like I think it's just DC trying to screw over James Tynion because basically he created the character.
He did leave them for Substack, so I can't blame them for being pissed.
Well, he does kind of do something for him. He still does Nightmare Country for them, but that's for Black Label. But you would think Harley Quinn have a character. Harley Quinn hates her. Teen Hyatt rates both books. Why is she bringing Catwoman though she can bring Harley Quinn?
Because they're trying to prop up Harley as an anti-hero, and I get what they're trying to do, but
like make a film for Harley. It makes sense for Harley, not for Catwoman.
I agree.
Yeah, and the thing is, once she had her miniseries, the Gotham game, which Teen Hyatt wrote that too. James Tynion had no idea. This is before I think just before he left DC. He had no idea that miniseries was even coming out. Until it was announced, he had no idea about it. Because I've been hearing the last year or two that DC higher ups do not communicate with the creators. Want to make an example of this? You know the Batman Timothy movie that came out?
Yep.
According to what I heard, James Tynion, the guy who wrote all 3 series for DC, made a boatload of money. I own one. I own one of the limited series. The 3rd one. He was never told about this until the writer showed up at a friend's birthday party and told him about it. The writer of the movie told him that.
Probably because they didn't want to go out of their way to pay Tomasi by crediting him.
Tynion,
excuse me.
Yeah, and also, I also heard that Scott Snyder had no idea the Cordell was going to show up in Gotham Knights video game. He had no idea about that.
Almost as if Warner Brothers is down in stocks and they wanted to acclimate profits, while at the cost of screwing over their creators.
Oh, speaking of creator, there was I think it was in Brave and the Bold. I think it was. There was a story done by Megan Fritz Martin.
Excuse me a moment.
Yeah, at least it wasn't Tim Drake.
That much we can agree on.
Yes. I'm like, DC, please put her on a creator-owned book. Don't put her on a superhero book.
Or the very least, that graphic novel line you used to have back in 2019. At least that stuff was self-contained and no one gave a crap about it.
Yeah, but put her in a story for Batman Brave and the Bold.
Which is supposed to be your big headline title, just with the dawn of DC, with DCU and all this synergy stuff with James Gunn. Dark Crisis alone.
Dark Crisis with a title like this would be a team-up title. But no, it is not a team-up title. It is an anthology book. It's basically the new Batman Urban Legends. That's literally what the book is.
It's a rebrand.
Yeah, here's also something weird, though. Second book called this. You want to know why?
Why?
Do you remember Batman Brave and Bold TV show?
Yep.
They had a comic. 2 of them. First one's called Batman Brave and Bold. And they got relaunched as all new Batman Brave and Bold. So technically it's a 3rd. I mean, I don't mind bringing back the Brave and Bold concept. That's fine. I love Brave and the Bold. I love all team-up stuff. But, excuse me, why make an anthology book? That's a really big question I would love to hear an answer to.
Allegedly, this is just my personal opinion, so take it with a grain of salt. But I feel like after the Tim Drake controversy and everything with Megan Fitz Martin and that run tanking, they wanted to rebrand Batman Urban Legends. So what's the name that's going to pop and guarantee readers coming to comic book stores? Make it Batman Brave and the Bold. It's an iconic concept. We're already using the namesake for James Gunn's DCU. Easy money, or at the very least, easy engagement.
Plus, the TV show, the same name too.
So I understand.
Think it was also the second to last known Batman TV show released, because I think last one was Beware the Batman. That was the last one I know. I know he's featured on Young Justice, but a Batman TV show. I think that was the last one second last one overall because Beware the Batman was the last one ever came out, and that was a good show. I like Beware the Batman, but it got pulled by Cartoon Network for no reason. After like halfway through its one only season, they pulled it, and then got canceled, and then basically aired the main episodes at midnight. I don't know why Cartoon Network did that for, because Cartoon Network at the time basically was being complete idiots. And since Beware the Batman wrapped up, we've had zero Batman miniseries. No, yes, we got Batman Cape Crusader, which apparently I've heard they're shopping around because apparently the Max don't pick up for some reason.
I think Amazon's picking it up, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, which is kind of, you would think like, okay, the Max has got all the Batman animated series. Why would I want this one? Why they shot like? It's almost like basically Warner Bros. Does not want to finance anything into Batman animated. And I don't think it's due to nostalgia for the 90s show. That has nothing to do with it at all. That has nothing to do with it because Batman's usually been very successful when it comes on TV shows anyways. But could because basically DC does Warner Bros. Does not want two different Batman properties on the same time because we have the Batman movie.
Hey, at the end of the day, it's a business, so you got to roll the dice as you're dealt.
Yes, and it's that stupid embargo that the thing is,
wait, wasn't the Bat embargo dropped years ago?
I think so. There was another embargo I heard where you can have two characters from the same time, like on movie and TV, despite the fact that people are not that stupid. Like the biggest example of this is Deadshot from Arrow. Great character, love what they did Deadshot on Arrow, and then they killed him off because Wilson was playing him in Suicide Squad. But yet, for some reason, they kept Waller around for a while, and then they killed her off of the show, despite her being in Suicide Squad. Making sense to you?
None whatsoever. I get that James Gunn's kind of playing. He's got a lot of leverage, so he's trying to keep contracts and yes men and all this other stuff. Business. If we played optics, we'd really be here all night.
And yet, for some reason, Superman was allowed to appear on TV. That's why we can appear in the movies as well. But I think the reason why they go with him because they actually altered his costume for the TV show.
Oh, okay.
Because remember, I think at the time, which is a Man of Steel costume.
I remember.
Yeah, and then when he appeared on Supergirl, it's a slightly altered because of the gold and his cape.
Yep, it was his gold. I want to say it was his Silver Age costume. I don't think it was a Golden Age.
Yeah, I don't think it was Golden Age because Golden Age had like more yellow in the symbol, and the symbol looked completely different than Golden Age. But the show itself, for some reason, it was mentioned by Toyman's son, Windshot is the son of Toyman in the show. He mentioned that, get this, apparently the events of Man of Steel is canon in the TV show because they mentioned Superman kills Zod. I'm like, okay. And do you remember who played Superman on Supergirl?
He ended up, I forget the actor's name, but I believe he was on Teen Wolf for a few years.
Yep. I think he was the main actor for Teen Wolf.
Huh.
Yes, and of course they were Lois, which that was interesting because I thought that that included her too, but I guess that Warner Bros. Was basically just leveling the embargo for Superman because he was sort of in limbo at that point, so they allowed him to use on TV, and of course, guys on TV show, which I heard they're ending it soon.
Yeah, season 4 will officially be the last season.
Which is strange, because if you think about it, for a live-action Superman series, like, not counting Smallville, because that was him as Superman before Superman, because the last we had before that one was the Dean King one. And do you know how long that lasted for?
2 seasons. Oh, 4.
Yep. 4. And they feature version of Lex Luthor in the show, which He had hair first, and at the end of the first season with bald. Then he got made a recurring character by the next season of the show. Yes, and they also feature a version of Deathstroke where he was this guy called Billy Church. Like what? It was
I
weird
get you
that show.
Ugh.
Yeah, and apparently, get this. Did you know that Dean Cain and Terry Hatcher actually briefly dated while they worked on the show?
I believe it.
They did. Didn't work out. Of course, Terry Hatcher, when she was working on the show, she did Tomorrow Never Dies. I like Tomorrow Never Dies. I don't get why some people don't like it, because some people think that the only good Pierce Brosnan movie is GoldenEye. I'm like, then what people have a problem with Tomorrow Never Dies, or was not enough? I can make an argument with those two.
I honestly couldn't tell you.
I know, I agree it's not that good, though I loved all the anniversary stuff, but what was not enough is good. So is Tomorrow Never Dies. I don't get why people don't like those movies.
I honestly couldn't tell you.
And I did hear also the reason why Terry Hatcher did her character in Tomorrow Never Dies, because she wanted her husband to be married to a farm bond girl. Then she divorced him in 2003. And she later regretted doing the role anyways. So what was the point of her playing the character? Paris Carver. And apparently, Pierce Brosnan didn't want her to play the character in the first place. He wants somebody else. Yep. I know we're going off topic when it comes to this one, but weirdly enough, Catwoman was played by like a lot of people live action, starting with Julie Newmar.
Yep, from I believe that was the Adam West series.
Yep, though she was the first of 3 on the show. They had one for the movie because Julie Newmar was not available, and then for the last season they had Eartha Kitt play Catwoman. Which in universe, I guess you watch like, wait, why did Catwoman change skin color? In the show, there's no explanation. We're just, we got a new actress for reasons. For the final season of the show, because she got canceled in 3 seasons. And then we had Nicole Kidman, who was a good Catwoman.
Yep. I believe she was the Catwoman for Batman 89. Or am I confusing her with someone else?
Batman Returns.
Okay, thank you.
And then we had the awfulness that was the Halle Berry one. Which even she was terrible. My gosh, that was bad. Her, Benjamin Bratt, and Sharon Stone. Sharon Stone was the villain. I'm like, what? And the terrible CGI. And according to rumor, this version of Catwoman was going to cross up with Christian Bale's Batman. Thank God that didn't happen, because that movie was awful. Her costume was like, what is this? Is she like one of those people hang out in those adult clubs? You know what I'm talking, right?
I know what you're talking about. But subtext is you're gonna give me the bottom dog one of these days.
At least I didn't say what it is, but I'm implying what it is. But you know what I mean. I mean, it's just it's like, okay, her outfit is simply leather pants, something barely covering her chest, gloves, and her cat costume. Like, what was up with the cat suit? The cat costume, the comics. And by the way, here's something really weird about this movie. Did you know the same year this movie came out is when Ed Brubaker started his run for Catwoman? Same year. But here's the thing. He still did better than that movie. And then we had another Catwoman. A much better Catwoman. A Catwoman that apparently no one talks about nowadays. The Anne Hathaway Catwoman from Dark Knight Rises. I gotta admit, she was not a terrible Catwoman. Right?
Give me a minute. I need to regain my composure. Give me a minute.
It was by sheer coincidence. And here's something interesting too. Guess which also a comic got relaunched that very same year?
What other comic?
Green Arrow.
Ooh.
It's a good thing he didn't have a TV show at that point. That happened in 2012.
Yep. And they pretty much turned it into okay. I know Green Arrow was notorious in the Silver Age for being a Batman ripoff, but Arrow just made it obvious. Like, we know you can't afford the Batman license. Just
But here's the thing. At least, okay, here's the question for the show. Guess how many Batman villains he actually fought in all 10 seasons of the show?
Ra's al Ghul, a brief skirmish with Talia, Nessa, who is Talia's sister, Deathstroke, but technically...
And Anarchy.
Go ahead.
Anarchy.
I forgot Anarchy was on Arrow.
Yeah. That's it. Roz was the only really big Batman they had in the show. They had nobody else.
Technically, you had supporting characters like Talia and Nessa, but that was about in Deathstroke, but he was more of a Nightwing villain.
Yeah, but Talia's appearance in the show was weird. It's like they featured Nissa first, then Talia. And of course, they made Nissa bisexual. Like, okay. The thing is, Nissa, the Nissa Ghul character in the comics is not the big of a character, so I didn't have an issue with it. And plus, she's a Chuck Dixon character.
Yep.
I've never asked about that. So, and plus also, you're going to love this. Did you know in the comics, she actually wanted nothing to do with her father at all?
Yes. Even the Arkhamverse referenced that. She honestly wanted nothing to do with him.
Yeah, Talia basically hung out with her father than she did. And Talia was this was kind of weird. I don't really, they never fully stated it. They do establish Nissa and Talia are sisters. Fine. But they do not establish who's the older, who's the younger one. Because in the comics, Nissa's older than Talia.
That is true.
In the show, they implied that Talia is older than Nissa. Even though the actors who play both of them, Talia is shorter than Nissa.
Yep.
Now, Roz himself, I love what they did with Roz. It felt more comic accurate than I had nothing against basically what they did with him in Batman Begins, Liam Neeson. Now, I have asked Neil Adams before he passed away of like which version of the character he liked. He never gave me an answer about it. Never did. Because there's been officially been 3 live action Rozes. There's been Liam Neeson, the one from Arrow, and the one from Gotham.
Now, the one from Gotham, he wasn't that bad. He was kind of like this, lack of a better terminology, demon on Bruce's shoulders. Like, you could tell this is going to be a continuing dark mentor-apprentice dynamic in the larger Batman mythos. Mm-hmm. And the way I get Gotham was supposed to be a prequel to Batman, but it's really a Jim Gordon show. But it literally ends with a 10-year... Spoilers for almost 5-year-old show, mind you. Gotham literally ends with Bruce beginning his training, ghosting Selina, and then randomly confronting her. I don't even think he confronts her directly. Alfred does it for him while he's brooding and perching on a rooftop with bad CGI, mimicking the "I am vengeance, I am the night" scene.
And did you know Alfred is played by Sean Pertwee?
Solid actor, perfect Alfred, hands down, masterclass performance.
And plus, he's a second generation actor because his father was one of the Doctor Who actors, John Pertwee. And did you know that Sean Pertwee actually once auditioned to be a doctor on New Who? He did. And another show he was on that I actually kind of like his character on was Elementary, where he played Inspector Lestrade for a few episodes.
Okay.
Weirdly enough, he's never put on Doctor Who.
They probably wouldn't let it.
Like, they allowed the sons of Patrick Troughton on the show. They allowed one of his sons appeared in the 80s, and another son during Matt Smith's run for one episode.
Okay.
I'm like, but they won't allow the son of John Pertwee on the show? Makes no sense.
I can't really argue that.
They allow Fifth Doctor's daughter in one episode.
They did.
Rennie, who Dave Tennant later married and had 5 kids with. I'm like, okay, now I'm not going to say the air thing, but I'm like basically that. Well, David Tennant took because here's the thing: David Tennant basically before becoming a doctor, he was a long-time Doctor Who fan, probably becoming a doctor.
Yes.
And then he married the daughter of one of the actors. Which here's the thing: Jenny is actually the daughter from because here's the thing about here, David. He's been married twice.
Yes.
The actress played Jenny was from his first marriage.
Okay.
So basically, David Tennant made Peter Davison a grandfather 5 times over. Yes. And you know the weird thing is about these actors on Doctor Who? Only new Who actors have actually come over here from the UK. Classic Who? I've asked this online. Why hasn't any classic Who actors? Like, oh, are they now alive? A lot of them are still alive. Take, for instance, the guy who was one of the first companions from the first Doctor. He's in his 90s and he's still alive.
Wait, what?
Yes. The guy who put Ian Chesterton, he's still alive. And he's in his 90s.
Jesus Christ.
He actually returned to the show for Power of the Doctor for a cameo. And it's the same character, same actor.
Man, I mean, I hope.
So I'm like,
hope
okay, so you can't get Tom Baker, Peter Davidson, Colin Baker, Seth McCoy. You can't get any of these actors and their companions. But in the case of you think, okay, John Pertwee, he had 3 companions on the show. Only one is still left alive. Joe Grant. Tom Baker, only 2 has passed away. Sarah Jane Smith and the first actress who played Romana. But everyone else is still alive. Peter Davis's run. Everyone's still alive from that run. Everyone who appeared in the 80s is all very much alive. And I'm thinking, like, do these Comic Cons just don't want to afford to fly over because they basically have to fly international? Or they just don't care?
Could be a combination of the two. It's a very circumstantial thing. So I could argue for a combination of the two.
Yes, but you think of somebody who would love to come over here. That would be Janet Fielding, the one who played Tegan. She loves being a fan. I've heard from interviews, she loves going to Comic-Con. She loves doing that. So I'm thinking, like, could the Comic-Con just can't? I highly doubt it's not like afford a price fee because I'm sure she probably doesn't charge that much.
Probably not.
But I'm like, what? You can't afford the airfare or something? Not sure, but yet you fought. Yep, but yeah, David Tennant's been over. Like, here's the thing: David Tennant has come to my area like 3 times over the years. Alex Kingston, who played Ripper Song, she's coming to make Orlando next month.
To Atlanta.
Orlando.
Orlando, my mistake.
Yes. Pierre Capaldi's been here once. Eccleston has been here once. And that's it. That's all the only Doctor Who actors I've seen come over here. No one else come over here at all. I know there was a Catwoman also for the Batman.
Yes, she was a Nepo baby, but I forget what her, and I think she was also supposed to be on the live action Snow White remake, but I believe that's been delayed.
I think it's a different actress, but this woman, I heard one of the reasons why this movie was delayed for so long. One, because Barb Hasn't got COVID. Another, allegedly, he got the actress who played Catwoman pregnant. You heard about that?
So yeah, I did hear about that. So
Yeah, what they did in the Batmobile.
Mm.
I'm like, want to show a good time? Show the Batmobile.
Hey,
Right.
Damian Wayne did it in pre-Flashpoint, so.
Oh,
oh,
we took a girl on a ride in Batmobile.
oh,
I
oh,
know.
God.
Here's the thing. Damien is supposed to be about 14 years old. He actually can drive the Batmobile no problem.
Yes. And that Joyride I just referenced, that cheeky joke just now, he was 10 when he did that.
I'm like, okay, so you're probably thinking, how can a 10-year-old know how to drive? Simple. His mom taught him. His hot mom.
Indeed.
She also apparently taught him how to run a business. Because remember in the first Bat, I think it was in the second Bat movie, I think it was, you have Damien show up in Bruce's office, give all this business stuff, and people who work with Bruce are like shocked that a 10-year-old knows is this smart. Knows how to run a business properly.
Your stocks are low in Argentina. Someone's skimming revenue.
Yeah, I think it was in the second one, it was Batman versus Robin, they did this.
I want to say that was a scene from Son of Batman, but I could be wrong.
I think it was Batman versus Robin because this is the one that brought in the Court of Owls.
Okay.
Which that movie did an excellent job adapting that story, but they did not do a good job adapting Night of Owls. It was rushed. The ending.
I think it was supposed to be the first conflict, not the overarching trilogy.
I'm not sure why they included Night of Owls for. Like you could just set up Night of Owls that movie because basically you read that story that can make an excellent standalone movie as its own. But nope, we have included in the most lamest way possible. It's like, oh, we have the Talon in the movie who is based upon Mr. Nobody from Batman and Robin Born to Kill.
Yep. Morgan Descartes.
Yes, except this Talon didn't have a real name. He was a former thief. Now, I have no problem with Talon being here, but Talons are not this talkative in the comics.
If you wanted to use nobody, use nobody. But I get the quote.
Talons don't really speak. They
They're
very
zombies.
rarely do. The only one who talks is Calvin Rose because he escaped.
Yep. And he's Grayson's ancestor, I believe.
No, that was William Cobb.
William Cobb. Okay, thank you.
Which William Cobb did finally show up in that one comic. It was just prior to it was the year of Valentine when they had him show up in the book, where he actually become a Talon briefly.
Okay.
And then William Cobb show up in Suicide Squad, not long after that for the Frontier. Which that was an interesting choice. I had no problem in being there, and then the comic didn't last very long. Like of the two comics ended at that time, it was like there was a couple years ago. They ended that in Teen Titans Academy. Suicide Squad, I could see that keep going for a while. Titans Academy, not sad to see it go. It was a disappointing series, anyways.
That was dead on arrival. Now, say what you will about the whole Red X stuff, but I don't think Tim Sheridan's heart was really in it. Tim Sheridan he's a showrunner, first and foremost.
Yeah, and I think people had no problem with the concept of Titans Academy. It's the execution we have a problem with.
Oh, definitely. Now, his Alan Scott Green Lantern is a completely separate story in general.
Yeah, where I read the newest issue of it, it's like implying that Red Lantern may be an ex-boyfriend of Alan Scott's. I'm like, what? Did you read that?
Yeah, I did. And I actually had to read New Golden Age Justice Society to get this part. Apparently, now I don't know whether or not this is going to directly tie into Alan Scott Green Lantern or not, but I wouldn't be surprised. Apparently, the Red Lantern was Johnny Ladd, Alan Scott's former lover, who was a Russian spy during the early days of World War II. He had a near-death experience when he was pulled by the Crimson Flame, became the Red Lantern, and he finally reveals himself just before World War II kicked off in 1941.
Well, actually, World War I started in 1939.
World War II, excuse me.
Yeah, World War II started in 39. That's when the war officially kicked off. America in the war in 41.
Okay.
Yes. Now, I actually listed that book at one of the worst things that happened last year because it's basically like Tim Sheridan having a panic attack and all this other stuff. The only good about the book is the artwork.
Look, there's nothing wrong with telling those type of stories because it's actually a human experience. regardless of your personal preference. But this is exactly the medium to tell that type of story, especially with an established IP.
And plus, also making Alan Scott gay was an absolute stupid idea.
That's
Now,
debatable.
Ultimate Universe, fine. But
Earth 2
Prime
saga.
Universe, Earth 2. But Prime Universe, this is completely unnecessary. This happened in 15 number 0.
Yep.
Where he revealed this to his kids that he's gay. Which made no freaking sense at all. Alan Scott, the Prime Universe of Alan Scott has been straight for decades. All this does, is basically show disrespect to his long deceased creators, basically their families, by basically outing him as gay.
It wasn't the point of Obsidian being gay, pretty much just tell the story, pretty much being an allegory for not accepting that lifestyle, and basically the whole rejection of it.
Yeah, Obsidian was a character created in the 80s. He was a Roy Thomas character. I think he was outed not in Infinity Corporate. I think he was out in a different series. But him, I don't know when he was outed, but I don't remember him being outed in Infinity Incorporated. Because
well, at least it was handled with more care and tact than Bendis' Iceman.
Yeah, here's the strange thing about Obsidian. In Infinity Incorporated, he had a girlfriend.
Wait, what?
Yeah, he dated one of the Harley Quinns. Not Harley Quinzel.
The Harlequins.
Yes, he dated the third one briefly. The original one became a stepmom.
Wait, what?
Yes, this happened in Infinity Incorporated in number 2, where prior to the Crisis of Infinite Earths, basically Alan Scott married his former enemy, who turned out to be his secretary, who had a thing for him.
And she was secretly the Harlequin.
The whole time. Despite the fact she started as a Flash villain. Jay Garrick Flash. Yeah, this is Roy Thomas for you, and the fact that basically his mom is Rose and Thorn. The original Rose and Thorn, not the one that Bendis came up with, or the one that had the miniseries in the 2000s, the original one. That was his actual mom. They revealed this in the first A of Friend Incorporated, where you see the cover is like, "You're our mom?" Where it's basically him, Jade, and Alan Scott, and they see this specific person, and you read the book, it's Rose and Thorn. Which the story is for that one is that she left Alan Scott on the wedding night because of her split personality. Despite the fact she got pregnant. Maybe it was after.
So she was the biological mother of Jade and Obsidian, or
Jade Obsidian. It was the biological mother. Harley Quinn, the Harley Quinn became their stepmom as Alan Scott married her. And the thing is, he maintained his youth in the 90s, and then she sold her soul to Necron to Underworld Unleashed to basically make herself young again. Yeah. And do you know who wrote Underworld Unleashed?
Who?
Mark Waid.
Oh.
Yeah, create a cool character like Necron, who showed up in the John Constantine, the Hellblazer series, the one that came after the one James Sinek did, the one that because the thing is, John Constantine, I think this was some point in Hellblazer, he's been out as bisexual. Him, I don't have a problem with it because this was not like recently. He's one character people have no problem being bisexual at all because this has been a long time. It's been about 20 years since he was out as bisexual, so not an issue. Though Catwoman was out as bisexual during Giovanni Valentine's run.
I believe that was in the New 52.
Yes, it was just after Batman Eternal this happened, where he has kissed the second Batgirl, who's Asian, and she asked the question afterwards, was that for me or the suit? And then oh, were they going to do something with this? They did nothing. Absolutely nothing. And here's the weird thing. After this run wrapped up, this woman was never seen again until fairly recently. And this
Yeah, because
happened back in 2013. When this run happened, 2013 to 2014.
yep,
Lasted for 1 year, and then after she left,
she was shelved for almost a decade.
yeah, but the book itself was taken up by Frank Terry for the last handful of issues, and the book got relaunched. Actually, the book ended in 2016. And we had no Catwoman book for 2 years
Mm.
until Julie Jones came up with the current book we have right now. It was her, and then Ram B did the run, which I love both the runs. Tina Howard's one is not bad per se. It's just that it could be better.
I agree to that much, but if you're gonna set up something up with Vandal Savage, why see, and how he ends up basically Bruce basically bought a brown house because he wants Damien to acclimate more to society as part of his and Damien's arc to reconcile and bond as father and son with Alfred passing. So he used the Wayne Manor estate as collateral for a loan on the brownstone, and he wasn't making payments because he was in a 2-month coma after night terrors, and no one was picking up the bill.
Well, the thing is, despite like Batman doesn't have his wealth much, he's still rich, but not as rich as he once was.
No, he's not billionaire. He's not going to be. He's not billionaire status, but at the very least, he's still in the millionaire range.
Yeah, that was something Joker did during Joker War, where Joker took away his money. This is something that I don't think even Tinian has explained the reason for this. Why did he do the whole thing? Like I love Joker War. I think it's some story, but why in the world did he have it where Catwoman steals his money? Basically, this is something he ripped off from Dark Knight Rises.
True,
Where Catwoman did the same thing, except that she was hired by Bane to do that. Here, she's hired by the Joker to do that.
technically, there was supposed to be this overarching nemesis from one of Bruce's mentors who actually outmaneuvered his hero. Who outmaneuvered the hero to the point to where he lost the will to fight. And Joker wanted to replicate that. He wanted to see this guy's ideas and how he could outmaneuver and get the last laugh on Batman. He didn't like the guy's ideas, unalived him on the spot, and then sees those. And then after paying him to put the plan together, basically double-crossed this supposed villain and took the plans for himself. Selina disassociated with Joker. She was out of it, but she still had a role. She still ended up playing a role after she got cold feet and left Bruce at the altar. She confessed to it. But
and guess who the money went to?
Lucius Fox.
Yes. And Lucius Fox is saying in the book, if you want your money back, just ask. And he's never asked.
Though some of it was supposed to set up Jace Fox as Jace Fox, which is basically a deep cut character from the 70s. He was just reused by I want to say Ridley Scott.
John Ridley,
thank you.
Where the Iron Batman series, which got canceled 18 issues. And the weird thing is, he's very rarely been featured in comics.
Yeah, that
it's like generally really want to push him so badly, but yet I think like the only book featured aside from that book is maybe Urban Legends
and Future State. He definitely got a lot of attention in Future State.
Yes.
I hate to be crass, but I'm going to say it. He's a Terry McGinnis, but in the present day, and that's the best case scenario.
Yeah, and plus we had this was revealed during the fourth day of Batman, the previous line for Batman, where we had, get this, Blight's aunt show up in the book.
Blight's aunt.
Yes, because she referenced Derek Powers. You know, Blight from Batman Beyond.
Yep.
And this is during a period of time when Bruce was basically having amnesia. He lost the manor because eminent domain, not because of his wealth, because eminent domain, and the house got turned Arkham Manor.
And
then at some point, somehow Arkham got evicted from Wayne Manor, and then Bruce Wayne got it back. Yep. Somehow they bought the place back, and then it was back under his control for. This was back, I think it was like 2015. I think it was. He was like out of the mansion for like a year, got it back, had it back under control for about 5 years, lost most of his fortune, and then he closed the house because the brownstone stuff, and he basically closed the Batcave up.
I mean, yeah, for all intents and purposes, it was sealed off until Savage bought the estate and burrowed his way through. But for
And
all intents and
apparently, and this is something really weird, that apparently Batman got his hands on the actual meteorite that made Vandal Savage smart. I'm like, when the heck did he do that?
well, a fragment of it. And it was supposed to be this big MacGuffin, and then Savage wanted to increase his powers because to get an edge on the metahumans to the point to where he was gonna guide a second meteor to come directly to Gotham, making it its epicenter, completely wiping out the city on impact.
Yeah, and then later on, I think it was announced in a later issue after storyline he was going to run for, like, he had interest. Like, some people like want to run for mayor, but like, no, he want to become police commissioner.
What?
Like, really? Yeah, that's what Zardesky was writing in the book. Like, people want to run for mayor. I'm like, really? You want to trust a known supervillain like Vandal Savage to be running for mayor of Gotham?
To be fair, it is a criminal cesspool, so Savage would feel right at home.
Yeah, but thing is, he might basically, like, as soon as he's named mayor, turn to martial law. Now, the thing is, Gotham City has a mayor right now, the one who's in office. Now, a lot of the time, the mayor tends to be whoever the right comes up with. Like, in the last couple of years, it's been a character that was introduced in Future State, the one associated with the magistrate.
Yes.
Yeah. Who was a friend of Renee Montoya's.
Yep.
Who lost his eye. Yeah. He lost his eye. He's not been featured in comics since Mariko Tamakagi wrapped up a run on Detective. He's been absent for like a year.
Because apparently Mayor Nakano, he won the election. He had this whole this was also set up Fear State. So he had this huge campaign, no mask, no vigilante. Okay, you lost your partner. First of all, you were up against a supervillain. I see crying victim mentality. I mean, turning Gotham into a police state despite Batman wasn't exactly your smartest play.
And the person behind the magistrate, the one who financed it, was a guy called Simon Saint, who got killed off in I Am Batman.
Yep.
And did anybody notice the fact he died? No.
This then also led to Batgirls, which was supposed to involve this spoiled rich kid who was kind of partnered with Saint with during the whole magistrate debacle, and was a lingering.
The series was actually, I thought the series was really good. I didn't think it needed to be canceled.
They mostly did it because of spoiler and the whole Tim Drake situation with Megan Fitzmartin. I said it once and I'll say it again. This was such an easy fix. A flashback sequence would have been more than enough. Tim is automatically asserting the Robin mantle again to reassert his glory days, and despite Damian for going AWOL. Steph calls Tim out in his crap for basically trying to relive his glory days while Damian's AWOL half across the world somewhere. Now, granted, Tim and Damian kind of for a while they despised each other. But once
the only Robin that Damian gets along with is Dick Grayson.
Yep. And occasionally Jason Todd, but that's because of the fundamental parallels between the two.
And because they both have once died.
Yep, that's one thing to bond over, I guess.
Yeah, except that Jason Todd got killed by the Joker, while Damian got killed by the Heretic.
Who was an enhanced clone of himself, but that's a separate conversation.
And then the Heretic got killed by Talia when she beheaded him.
And then he was brought back somehow by Mother Soul, and this led to a pact with a rogue Jinn named Elias, and then this led
it wasn't really explained in Adam Glass's Teen Titans, like, because the way he explained, like, oh, some unknown assassin revived, like, sewed his head back on, put him in Lazarus pit, he's alive and well.
I mean, it's technically canon, but rumors have been circulating online. you could make the argument work that it was the League of Lazarus who did this because she was working on this ritual with every 100 years to revive this demon entity. Damien
I
is a
believe Mother
descendant.
Soul was supposed to be Roz's mom.
Yes, she is Ra's al Ghul's mom.
Which makes her basically Damien's great-grandmother.
Yep. And who better to wield the power of the demon than a descendant of the demon, a descendant of the Al Ghul line? So you could retroactively make an argument. That's why the League of Lazarus, a separate faction from Ra's al Talia, snuck into Gotham while Batman Incorporated / Leviathan was going on, preserved Heretic's head, sewed it back on, revived him using a Lazarus pit, and then used dark magic to essentially give him a younger body. But the Lazarus corrupted his genome. He was slowly deteriorating over time, and he wanted to get Damien to join him. And that's not too far off.
Yeah, when he was over the other, it was such a disappointment because I don't think anybody cared about the storyline.
No, I mean, the Adam Glass run was essentially, it's a fall from grace story, don't get me wrong. And you can tell those type of stories, but this was clearly done to achieve an editorial mandate. This was not set up at all. And the only way
the fact they had to remove Ben Percy from the book, which you read his run, it seems like he had a lot more he wanted to do with the book, like he was going to support Aqualad. Like, it was a great concept.
Yeah.
And then he got let go. What happened?
I could not tell you. I guess it was
it's a big question mark because he also Green Arrow at the same time.
He was working on both books. Hell, even some people were actually starting to ship Robin. And granted, I'm not the biggest fan of shipping, but some people were starting to pair Robin and Miko together. But that was, in my opinion, that was book synergy because it was the same writer.
Yes, and then for some reason, Red Arrow decided to try Adam Glass hook up with Kid Flash.
Wallace was Kid Flash, but some people just assumed that was rebounding because Damien was kind of because Damien and Jen were going to be a thing, and that led to a falling out. And Amiko has shown vanity issues even in Stargirl and
the Lost Children. At the end of the previous one, Ben Percy, they established that he and Rave are going to be a couple, and then that went nowhere. And then was this, and it's also been implied in the Flash books that Avery, the Chinese Flash, she's got a thing for Wally.
Yes. Something
which that no writer has done anything with.
Now, there is a miniseries called Speed Force by Jarrett Williams. I believe this is his first official writing credit out because I know he was an artist on the Rick and Morty tie-in comics. But yeah, I feel like by the end of that miniseries, Wally and Avery are going to be together. If I based on what's been teased within the confines of the story itself,
I don't have a problem with that at all. It's perfectly fine.
But needless to say,
it's just that there are some people who want to see couples be the same ethnicity. Me, I don't give a damn. That's a stupid idea. Like,
neither do I. You do you.
Like, if someone's in love with somebody different ethnicity, that's fine. You want a good example of this? Naruto Hinata from Naruto. Hinata looks like she's Japanese. Naruto looks like he's American. And does anybody have a problem with that? Some people in the fandom, but by appearance-wise, it's perfectly fine. That's just my example I point out, though, about that.
That's fair.
When we look at both of them, because Hinata looks like she's Japanese, or at least Asian, and Naruto looks like he's American because he's got blonde hair and blue eyes.
Understandable.
I don't have an issue with that. There's nothing wrong with it. And here's another good example. Luke Cage, Jessica Jones. Another really good couple.
Yeah.
Do people care the fact these two are not the same ethnicity? No. No one gives a damn about that. Because they're a good couple. And they're written really well.
Wolverine and Storm, Nightwing and Starfire. There are so many examples.
Mm-hmm.
But needless to say, I just feel like with now again we can play headcanon until we're blue in the face, but even if we did factor all that, I just think the Adam Glass run is just dead and buried. No one wants anything to do with it. Treat it like a blank slate. Just bury it and maybe reference it.
If you read Tomasi's run for dccomics, his The one he had prior to Infinite Frontier. The one that was really good. You read the run, it's like he's trying to fix other people's mistakes.
Yep.
Like, he actually established how the heck Two-Face survived killing himself. And he tried to fix the whole thing with Damian. Because even he probably was not happy with what happened in Adam Glass's run. When him basically remembers R and says, I'm not Robin. This happened in number 2 of that book.
Second annual.
Yeah, second annual. And the book ended not long after that. And the only reason why he was doing this, the reason he was acting the way he did, because Alfred died.
And contrary to misconception or popular belief, it wasn't Damian's arrogance that killed Alfred. Bruce directly gave Damian the order. Damian was going to play the fool, get himself captured, pull the hostage swap, and then Batman and Catwoman would team up to take down Bane while the Bat family focused on freeing Gotham and taking out the other villains. Now, could Damian have handled the situation better? Sure, because you already had the sentiment advantage with Thomas Wayne being Batman, and Thomas only wanted to prove a point to Bruce. He didn't want to condemn or unalive Alfred if it came down to it. But if his hand was forced, that was the consequence. Thomas does not have the same skills and repertoire as Bruce does, so Damian thought he could take him on. It was a child's hubris. And
from Damian's perspective, he looked up Alfred like an actual grandfather, so I think he called him. Here's the thing. Any comic book, this even happened in the animation too. Damian always called Alfred by his last name. He never addressed him by his first name.
Yes.
I don't know exactly what was the reason for that, because he did the same thing with Tim Drake, call him Drake. He called Stephanie Brown. He even called Dick Grayson.
It's more of a formality thing.
He addressed everybody by their last name. Surprisingly, I don't think he addressed Jason Todd by his last name. Not that I heard of.
Maybe once or twice, but I think he just refers to him as Jason either condescendingly or for the sake of simplicity. Because usually acknowledging...
I at least think that Roy Harper has pointed out twice, why you wear a ball cap? Damian's pointed that out. And Irie's pointed out too. And Irie does not like Damian at all. She finds him very disrespectful. While she finds Cassie and Stephanie be very nice. That's the way Jerry Adams wrote those two when they popped up during Flash.
I think that was a Dark Crisis tie-in, if I remember.
Yeah. Where she's like, hi, I'm Stephanie. This is Cassie. We like to be your best friends. And apparently it's also established in this same set of issues that Irie is best friends with Maxine Baker.
Animal Girl. Girl.
Which, that's fine.
Yeah.
Like, I even love it when Wally and Buddy are basically joking, hey, we need to arrange to have a non-meat barbecue. Like, it's like Jeremy Adams is basically just showing the fact these two are just very good friends. So like, Animal and Wally West have very rarely interact with each other. It just that was like, it's like, oh, they're friends. Okay, that's fine. Got no problem with that at all. I think it was his first anime featured in quite a while. He rarely features his book wrapped up.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was issue 97, 96, where it was supposed to be a self-contained story where Jay and Irie, Animal Girl, and the Super Sons team up in an interdimensional adventure. Now, is that in reference to Challenge of the Super Sons, or was this whole thing standalone?
Challenge Super Sons was something else.
Okay.
And I kind of wish that DC would put that Superman and Robin one-shot trade, which they still have not. Which, according to Tomasi, he does not see that anytime soon, that one-shot in the trade. Because that's kind of the end of the Adventures of Super Sons.
Pretty much.
And yet, for some reason, he has it where, not him, it's Tom Taylor does this, where you had Superman, you have John Kane interacting a lot with Nightwing. And this is strange, though, that John Kane has not joined the Teen Titans. The Titans.
He does make an attempt after Super Sons of Tomorrow, but after the whole savior / evil Tim Drake's bat at the tail end of the Percy run. The Titans believe they need some time to reflect, and adding a new member would just be too much of a disconnect.
I mean, in
And
the current Titans book by Tom Taylor, I'm surprised he hasn't joined that book because it seems like the book he's in now is Action Comics. I mean, he'd make a perfect fit for Titans.
yeah, they're the new Vanguard. They're pretty much the new frontliners from the Justice League disbanded. You think John would be a perfect fit?
Especially since he's the son of one of the Justice Leaguers.
I think they're going to wait till after Beast World and then maybe have John replace Garfield on the team, assuming he survives.
Because it's a weird thing with this book. I mean, this week they just released only one shot related Beast War. This actually, yeah, it was actually just past week. They released Titans Beast War Atlantis.
Yes.
And there's one more of these one shots left, and it's mostly just a mini series in Titans for Nightwing and Titans because I think Tom Taylor is writing Beast World, isn't he?
I believe so. I believe he's writing all three.
Yes, it makes sense, but he doesn't write the one shots, the World Tour one shots.
Yes,
I think those, if I can tell, those are different writers. Makes sense.
Yeah.
If you want to think of one character DC Comics who should have a series right now, but he doesn't, Aquaman.
Right?
Isn't it weird? Like the last comic he had was Aquaman. That was like what 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, and that book tanked. I don't even think it made 30,000 units in sales. It was bad.
7 issues. I don't think the series was bad. It just didn't sell very well. That's the problem. Though I thought it was kind of weird in the book. They had it where it was a team of the original Aquaman, Arthur Curry, Jackson Hyde, who's also Aquaman as well, and Black Manta on basically like a team up book. Which that didn't make much sense to me. Black Manta is basically someone who hates Aquaman because he killed his father.
Because of a blood feud.
Yeah, and also it was done in the Aquaman the Becoming mini series, the one full Jackson Hyde. That's when he officially became Aquaman.
Yes.
And is it weird though because he's Aquaman? He's he's not on Titans because Garth is there.
Yes. Well, he would have been if he wasn't mind controlled by Brother Eternity, who, in spoilers for Beast World issue 3, turns out to be a rogue Tamaranian who was a night guard for Corey and Blackfire, who ultimately sold Corey to the Chronotans after Tamaran was conquered.
In the original continuity, I think it was her sister sold her to slavery.
Yes, it was originally Blackfire.
Yeah, and the guy, when I saw him in the book, he kind of looked like Starfire's brother.
Yes, believe it or not, Starfire does have a biological brother.
Who's part of the Mega Man.
Yep. And fun fact, do you all know why Nightwing and Starfire originally broke up post-crisis in the early 90s? Because Starfire was betrothed to a political marriage, and it was all formality. They all had their own lives. This was just for politics and uniting their people. But Grayson did not want to be in a position to where he had to share his woman in any context.
They did attempt to get married in New Titans 100, which that proved to be a disaster.
Yeah, Raven gave into her demon side and tried to give Starfire a demon. It was a long story. And then Grayson gave Barbara baby sex the night before.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was really a Nightwing annual that happened. The fact that Dick Grayson unintentionally cheated on his own girlfriend or fiance. And the thing is, when she found out because the thing is, Barbara had seen a long time, she just really wanted to do it, and then all of a sudden, it's like, this is not the reason why I came over. I came over and invited you to my wedding, and she's like crying, like, really? Get out! That's literally what she said. This is in now number 2, which this came when George Perez wrote the book. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I do not get why some people at DC really want to see Dick and Barbara together. I mean, readers have always wanted to see Dick and Starfire be a couple. Like, that makes more sense in the context of the last 30 years than Dick and Barbara.
I think it's to keep Nightwing within the Bat brand more than anything.
Yeah. And I believe he's the leader of the Titans in the Tom Taylor book.
He is. And
which for some reason the tower they had in the book, I think it's the same tower they had in the previous flying, but they transported from New York to Bloodhaven.
I believe so.
Which is strange. And also they have Cyborg on the team, which for some people it makes more sense Cyborg be on the Titans than he does with the Justice League.
It does. It makes more sense.
Which the only reason why he was on Justice League because Jeff Johns' a big fan of his. That's the only reason why he was there.
Yep. And he didn't want to use a traditional roster.
Yeah, because he didn't want to use Mark Smith on her team. He though they later revealed that he was a team during the 5-year time skip. But then he went nuts and left the team.
Mm.
And also at the time when the comic came out, he was on Stormwatch. Yep. Which was weird. Like, why would Mark Smith be on Stormwatch? And after a year in the book, he left. And I was hearing something a few years, I think about 4 or 5 years ago, where someone's, watch out for Stormwatch. And Stormwatch proved to be not as good as people thought it was. It wasn't there a book per se. It just was disappointment. That's the biggest problem with the book. It surprisingly lasted 30 issues. At one point, he had Jim Starlin writing the book. Which is strange. Jim Starlin. Really? The creator of Thanos wrote Stormwatch? Yes, the book is written by Peter Mulligan.
Another instance of DC trying to copy Marvel, but that's a story for a different day.
Yep, and the Authority was the Jim Lee creation.
But
Stormwatch is basically one of his creations. The Authority, I think that was Mark Millar. Which Grant Morrison brought the concept back, except that was supposed to be different what DC Authority wanted, and then he turned into something that what we got for that miniseries. Basically, we got that miniseries that was all Grant Morrison, not DC editorial. Because even he realized the whole original concept was really dumb. We're like, Superman's old and he's dying. I'm like, what? And it's also an X comics as well. This happened. And of course, one member of the team, Manchester Black, the first person he recruited in that book, he gets killed off in issue 1050 by Lex Luthor. As part of this, yes, in this wave to wipe everybody's memory of Clark Kent being Superman.
Basically, they were trying to undo the identity reveal, but okay, let's just pin this on Luthor and call it a day. They kind of half-assed it, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, and they revealed in the book that apparently all the Justice Leaguers remember it, and some of the close family, and whoever's inside that shell in the Kent farm, anybody inside that shell, and all Justice Leaguers remember who these two are because of Marshmaller's psychic shields he put on all the Justice Leaguers. So it's like only a small hand of people know he's Superman, not everybody. And then like right afterwards, he tells Perry about it because Perry knew about it, and then obviously he has a heart attack. And next time we see him after that, he's running from Metropolis. Which is what? And in the main Superman book, they have done very little with that.
Almost as if it's become an afterthought.
Yeah, I think it's because Williamson probably wants to say that for later because he established that in the Superman annual, which I know they did it for this one and Batman and Robin, where after he's like second issue, he's like, oh, here's an annual. Okay. Why? Why do we have to add that in if only 6 issues released? Can't you wait a year like everybody else? Nope. He's the same thing Batman and Robin as well, because apparently there's an annual coming out for that book. But yeah, Green Arrow has no annual. And here's the weird thing about Green Arrow's annuals. The last time he had an annual was it was the annual that kind of was a tie-in to Dark Knight's Metal, where he was given that box by Mark Turner, like, oh, there's this box is something will be very dangerous once you hold on to it, and then like it was horrible until like the last issue where you finally find what's in the box, and it's absolutely nothing. Yeah, it's like basically the writer of that book. I think the last issue was Colin Kelly Jackson because the Bensons left the book part of that. They were writers of the book. It's like they did not know about the annual at all. They just probably just knew about it and just did this to say we had no idea. It was a red herring. It's like the left hand does not know what right hand is doing. It's one of those cases when it comes to that. I think it was back in like let's see. I think it was 2018 last time Green Arrow had an annual.
But how do you feel about the whole new trifecta for this year? Because we're supposed to get like this evil trinity between Zur-En-Arrh, Amanda Waller, and Brainiac/Brainiac Queen.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, and also we have the a new version of the Secret Son of the Super Sons, comprised of the son of General Zod, the son of Sinestro, and it's just those two, which is weird. The fact now I knew about Zod having a son, that's fine, but Sinestro having a son? You just thought this was weird?
It is, because it's set up as if it's an illegitimate child of Sinestro's, because he still has his daughter. That's still established. That's still canon.
Yes, I have a theory who the mom is, but they have not confirmed it.
Is it the Yellow Lantern that was always on Sinestro's right-hand side?
Lisa Dark, the keeper of the Book of Parallax. The one who he took to his bed with him.
Yep.
I think that's the mom.
More than likely.
Yeah, and I'm like, good job. Because Lisa Dark's hot.
You've been holding that one in, haven't you, Nick?
Yeah. Because basically, anytime I see her, it's like, ooh, you see the pretty lady. Yeah, and the fact that she basically took the Book of Parallax and implanted all the markings on her skin. The entire freaking book that was destroyed. It's in her skin now. So I'm like, and then when Sinestro, you read the first issue of Sinestro by Colin Bunn, it's like he got rid of Parallax. And he X time his ring is like, oh, I want to know, and he finds out that, oh, his people are still alive. So he uses the ring and he charges it, he puts it up to her chest. Not like like right here in the middle. And that's how he charges the ring. Using her chest. Okay.
Thank God of a small channel.
Well, here's the thing. That's what Colin Bunn came up with. So blame him for that. I brought it up because basically that's what happened in the book. I mean, have you read Snatch #1?
I have. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, it just seems like, and then like, oh, we're going to execute these 3 people for being traitors. And he finds, oh, Lee Stark is really a traitor, so he makes out with her, and then later on they're in bed together. I'm like, damn, Sinestro, you lucky dog. And she's one of 2 hot women who are basically in the Green Lantern books who are not Carol Ferris. Carol Ferris. There's also Bleeze from the Green Lantern Corps. Which Guy Gardner tried to screw with her head in the Charles Shaw run, and that went nowhere. And then later on, she ended up hooking up with one of the other Lanterns, which that went nowhere. It's like, whatever was about the Red Lanterns, it's like basically that Sam Humphrey was at the first arc of his run for Green Lanterns, and it was like dropped. Because since that run wrapped up, there's been nothing Green Lantern since then. Like, with the exception of the stuff we have for Alan Scott, but like the regular, the alien Red Lanterns, there's been like nothing. They've been virtually quiet.
They have.
Same thing with the Sinestro Corps. They've been relative, like all the corps have been very quiet. Do you think if any corps besides the Grand Corps is actually active right now? I mean, you don't hear anything from the Indigo Tribe. I highly doubt the Black Lanterns or anything because there's only one Black Lantern, Black Hand, but you can't count that the core active because he's trapped in the source wall.
Yep.
Which that was interesting when Venditti did that. It's like, okay, so he brings in Black Hand, and he brings the source wall, a Jack Kirby creation, by the way. And like, oh, the source wall is a massive graveyard. So he revives everybody at the source wall. And the thing is, if you read the comic very closely, Relic, who appeared in the previous story arc prior to this one, this is the Lights Out story arc, where Relic was still in the wall because he got trapped in the source wall.
Right.
Because Relic, for some reason, was drilling inside this wall for this magic well. It's Venditti. His run was weird. Like a reservoir for the lanterns. What? It's like whatever Jeff Johns came up with, throw that in the garbage. Just do whatever. But I actually really enjoyed. Actually, this was not during Lights. This was actually during. I think it was during Godhead. I think it was Godhead is when this happened.
Mm.
The Godhead story was fantastic, by the way. And during the third act, almost all the covers for that third act of books were all homages to classic Jack Kirby covers. Like it was one for Commandi, Mr. Miracle. There was a handful of them. Because I think it was supposed to celebrate Jack Kirby's 100th birthday at that point. I guess they figured out. And it was a good story. The only thing I didn't like about it was how he wrote Highfather. I even told Betty about this. It's like, okay, but the storyline was awesome. It was a fantastic story. I thought it was kind of weird the fact that apparently the Guardians knew nothing about new gods. I'm like, seriously? How the heck do you not know people like Darkseid or the new gods part of this storyline? I know we got way off topic. Right?
We did, but this has been good conversation. But back to Batman and Catwoman, because now this was never officially confirmed, but we do know a 5G setup played a role. I don't know what Catwoman overall role was going to be, but
I don't think she was in Future State.
She was in Future State Gotham and a little bit of Future Batman, where her and Bruce reconciled. But
if they did reconcile, they would have had established one of the annuals. These two would have had a daughter together in continuity.
Yes.
And that daughter is now in JSA.
Well, time displaced, but yes.
Yeah, it's weird that she's the daughter of these two, and yet these two haven't had the daughter in present day yet. I mean, if the thing is, this Hell in a Way is not Batman Catwoman. You realize that, right?
Yes.
Imagine if she met Damian Wayne.
She did. Well, the New 52 version of her did.
Well, that one was based. That one was the Earth 200s. But I'm talking about two Prime Universe characters. You're like, oh, I gotta have like. The thing is, here's something you may also forget. Damian's got a cousin.
Yes. Mara Al Ghul,
who was in the opening story for Ben Purr's Teen Titans and didn't show up since then.
Well, she did appear in Shadow War and a little bit of Robin before Lazarus Planet.
It's like basically they were setting up for something then because Ben Percy had to lead the book. Then they had to, I'll be right back.
Okay. While we're waiting on that, let me just go ahead and cue solo layout for this part. I know we're over 2 hours, but bear with me. While we're waiting on that, basically, Mara Al Ghul is the cousin of Damian Wayne. Mara was always in Damian's shadow because Damian was the lead, he was the heir, he was the ideal, and Damian was still a bit of a brat during this time, so he kindly boast and show how superior he is. He even gave Mara a scar during a sparring session to be a constant reminder. So yeah, Damian Wayne was a bit of a dick. Now, fast forward to about a few years later. Now we're in the Percy run proper, and he's coming of age. He's 13, and he's declared an official challenge. Return to the League and join Raish, or I'm alive. So, okay, Damien doesn't, and now the Demon's Fist are specific. This current roster of the Demon's Fist, which is a Ra's al Ghul's supposed elite unit that Damien used to lead, are tasked with specific powers and countermeasures against Starfire, Beast Boy, a de-aged Raven, Wallace West Kid Flash, and to an extent himself. Damien agrees to go to the duel. He fights Mara to call off the hit, and Damien puts up a good fight until Mara plays dirty and poisons him. Which, for a former assassin, yeah, Damien, you should have anticipated that. But needless to say, they rally together. The Titans try to support, and Starfire tries to be a bit of a mentor figure to Damien, similar to what Calderon was for Grayson and Young Justice. Yeah, there are a lot of parallels and synergy with multimedia projects in this comics. But
I'm back.
Thank you, Nick. Let me just get out of solo layout. I was just giving everyone a quick recap of the Damien Knows Best arc.
Yes, which basically brought in the most of the lineup that's based upon the Marvel Hope and George Perez run. Like, everybody's there except for two. Cyborg, which is obvious, and Wonder Girl. Because Cass, like, if you could have Donna Troy in the book, fine. Why not have Cassie's head mark there?
Because she's technically within Tim's generation. So.
Yeah, but this is a lineup that's based on Marvel Hope and George Perez lineup. So.
No, don't get me wrong. Percy's run was a love letter to Wolfman and George Perez. There were like multiple callbacks.
Yes, and you read the run, it's like he had plans for so much more, and then DC let him off of the book. And Green Arrow. I would love to know the reason why he left these books if I get a chance to meet him.
Definitely, I'm curious about that as well.
Because currently he's at Marvel doing Wolverine, he's doing X-Force, he's doing Ghost Rider, and that's it. His first book he did for Marvel was an adaptation of a podcast known as Wolverine and the Longest Night. That was the first comic he did for them. Yeah, and for DC, aside from doing Green Arrow and Teen Titans, he also did a couple issues of Detective Comics.
He did I believe he did about 5 issues. I want to say
it was 2. It actually was about. It basically was a fill-in story arc that came between the first story arc that Francis and Brian Buchlaw did in the book and the Anarchy stuff. It was just a fill-in. A couple issues, just weird thing about this terrorist coming to Gotham, batting back to a virus to make his hair go gray, and Dick Grayson's in the book. He's still working for Spiral, and you read the book. I'm like, what in the world is going on with this? Like, Dick Grayson's torturing somebody? What? This doesn't sound like Dick Grayson. Why would he do this? Like, he's pulling teeth in this guy's mouth, or like breaking his fingernails. Like, this is like, spy torture. Why the heck is he torturing somebody in this book? It didn't make any sense to me for him to do this. It was when Agent Spiral doing this fine, but Dick Grayson?
Technically, he was a Spiral operative at the time.
Yeah, but not even he would go this far. Because you read the Grayson book, he never did this at all. Never. Now, I'm curious, though, when the book wrapped up, what happened to that shirt he wore in the book?
I think it was buried and never to be seen again. Like, you don't see any reference to
special contact lenses eyes, where it allowed his identity to be distorted. And for some strange reason, I think it was the second Grayson annual, where apparently Barbara didn't recognize his rear end. This I've actually seen that before. It's the way the book was written. I'm not really sure why. It was really weird at that point. And one of the biggest mysteries surrounding Grayson that they didn't really do resolution for, who the heck was Mr. Minos? The guy with the swirly face. We never found out who he was. And then also it was like these other people who Mr. Minos, like, what? And Huntress saw him like, wait, I killed you. They're like, oh, that was double. And I'm like, oh, that's just 101 standard retcon stuff. So, of course, basically, they would do that.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Robin War was supposed to set up a fourth Court of Owls storyline called World or Parliament of the Owls, but they didn't follow up on it.
Not immediately. That got followed up with the first arc for Nightwing. Rebirth Nightwing. Which all that did was him. Well, they used new character Raptor, who was his partner in the storyline, and they took down Court of Owls, and they also took some of data. He took his data to Batman. Raptor took his data to Cobra. DC's Cobra.
Sorry, I had to.
Yeah, the biggest difference between DC's Cobra and the G.I. Joe Cobra is that this Cobra is with a K.
Sorry, I had to make that.
This is also something that was created by Jack Kirby as well in Cobra #1. Yes. Now, here's what I might find interesting. Do you know what was the very first series to feature outside the comics?
Huh?
What was the first TV show to ever feature Cobra outside the comics?
G.I. Joe?
The DC one.
Oh, I know it wasn't Young Justice. BTAS, Batman the Animated Series.
Batman Beyond.
What?
That was first that featured. And they also guest starred an episode of Static Shock, where they
that one I remember.
Yeah, that was weird. It's like they apparently kidnapped a future Static who is a bodybuilder now, and then he shows up on Justice League where he's thin. What happened?
Two separate. Okay. There are two versions of the Batman Beyond. There's one from the time travel adventure where most of the Justice League is dead, the Watchtower was destroyed, and it's basically Kronos messing with the timeline. That's the first one we were exposed to. The second was from the two Static Shock and BTAS crossovers, where that one's pretty straightforward. The latter of which was where Static goes directly to the future. His doppelganger is abducted by Cobra in exchange for a prison swap. And
they also jokingly have it where Gear is overweight. And then when he's back in present day, it's like, Gear, lay off on the fries. And they mentioned Gear was the rest of the planet for some reason. And it's like, where's Robin? Retired.
With the Titans. Which was a deep meta joke. And that led to so many people believing that Teen Titans, and I actually am going to do a 20th anniversary on the Teen Titans 03 video. Hopefully Nick will collaborate with me on that. But yeah, that led to so many people believing Tim Drake was the Robin of Teen Titans 03 when we had a literal fifth dimensional imp episode literally referring to Robin as Grayson.
Yep. And also in that very same episode where they had that mentioned, it was a guest star appearance for Team of Batman to take on Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn, but using designs from New Batman Adventures.
Yep. Well, I believe that was the first crossover with Static Shock. The second was the Batman Beyond one.
This actually a few times. The first time that Static came with Batman is when they took on the Joker. And he beat the Joker in his own game because, Joker's got that thing on his finger.
Joy buzzer.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you got to shock me? It's like, that tickled. My turn. They shocked him too. And this is one of two times they feature Harley Quinn in the show. And of course, they team with Justice League in a great two-parter. I love that two-parter team with Justice League, where they take out freaking Brainiac. I'm thinking, like, is this like before that he showed up on Justice League Limited? Something like that. I'm not really sure. I
believe this crossover took place during Justice League. I don't think it was between JLU.
Yeah, but it was an awesome two-parter. Where he's like, and he performs a skull ship. And apparently he did this where he downloaded himself into Gear's backpack. And like the only way to save him is to basically fire on the backpack. And then like, oh, Brainiac's reactivated. So let's have Jon Stewart and I think it was Static. I think it was Jon Stewart and Superman wrecking all Brainiac's equipment just to make sure it doesn't reactivate. Which that was just so amazing. Every time I watch that crossover, it's just so amazing. But in the show, the second season, they actually had in the third season they had it where Static changed costumes. In show, they never gave a reason why. Behind the scenes, it was because that was the costume he was wearing at the time of the comics. Yep. Where it sure became white to black. And it was also the same episode where he teamed up with Batman for the first time. With the where he teamed up Batman. This when Dick Grayson was when Tim was gone, and they took on Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy.
Yep.
And I think they had another one to do with Batman Beyond. I think Batman Beyond. I think it was the last time Static teamed with Batman.
Yep, because he didn't get another crossover episode.
Yeah,
go ahead.
The show ended on a very weird cliffhanger.
It did,
where like everybody's losing their powers, and then like, oh, there's been a cure that's been in the atmosphere, and it showed in the show that apparently it looked like Emil Hamilton from Superman is responsible for creating this cure. I'm thinking, really, Emil Hamilton?
Yeah, the guy from Legacy.
Yeah, it just seems so odd that he'd be the one doing this, but I guess Dwayne McDuffie, who was a consultant on the show, he never actually worked on the show. He was just a consultant. I guess they figured, why not? And like Stag was with his powers, Gears with his powers, eventually got the powers back, and some people who lost powers did get the powers back. And show that'd be an interesting show for us to do, Static Shock.
Oh yeah, we're definitely doing a review on that. I even got some Blaze reviews for Young Justice, so whenever you're ready, we can go cover those as well. But let's get through.
Justice, I've only watched the first season. I didn't watch the stuff that came afterwards.
Yeah, the revival was not what people anticipated.
That was something people begged Warner Brothers for years because it was, in my announcement, a lot of people agree with me on this. It was a mistake to cancel the show in the first place.
It was over toy sales. Even though the market.
Go ahead.
No, granted, it's not surprising that a cartoon show got greenlit in a licensing deal or collaboration with toy sales or a toy company. But to cancel Young Justice strictly over that.
I think Green Lantern was canceled the same reason too.
No, well, to an extent, Green Lantern had a lot going against it because of the Ryan Reynolds movie. But the toy sales were the final nail in the coffin on that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then they replaced Young Justice with Teen Titans Go. And they had an episode where they insult Young Justice fans.
Yep.
As soon as I read about it, I'm like, and this is supposed to be a continuation of the shorts from DC Nation shorts. I'm like, of all things, a TV show, why turn this into a TV show? And the show's for kids. I have nothing against anybody who likes Teen Titans Go, but it's not for me. I'd rather have Doom Patrol over this.
And granted, the original voice cast does come back for Teen Titans Go because this would have been because 2013, 2016 would have been around the time their 10 years non-disclosure would have wrapped up, would have aged out. Yep. So some say Teen Titans 03 was canceled over distribution between the three networks and syndication. Yes, that played a factor, but I think
it was 06, 07, wasn't it? The series ended. I think it was 06, 07.
It was in 06.
It lasted 4 seasons. I remember that much. It was like 4. I think it was like 5 seasons. Because last season they dropped the stuff with Deathstroke, and they basically focused last season on the more characters and the Brother of Evil.
Yep, which included the Doom Patrol and an expanded Teen Titans.
Yeah, and Doom Patrol was only there for the opening episode, and they said, Mento's been leading Doom Patrol, despite the fact that's not true. Chief was not even mentioned in the episode. It just classic Doom Patrol minus the Chief for reasons. And
probably because Doom Patrol and X-Men. Go ahead.
It just seems kind of weird they wouldn't feature the Chief, but the Chief is in like a regular wheelchair. He's not in the chair that Xavier's on for using before he got out of the wheelchair.
But you have to understand there
Well,
are some direct parallels between Doom Patrol and X-Men. So I feel like people would have made the comparison regardless.
Arnold Drake has frequently accused Stan Lee of ripping him off for ripping off his ideas because the alleged rumor was at the time he was paranoid Marvel had spies DC offices. Like any ideas he had for Doom Patrol was basically put over an X-Men. And later on, he later wrote X-Men.
Ironic.
Did you know that? Yeah, he also created the original version of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Not the one we used in movies, the one from the 60s.
Yeah, the original. I know which one's about.
Yep.
But and the majority of, since we're already on the subject, the majority of the Teen Titans 03 show was actually based on 5 iconic storylines. You have Robin Renegade, that was season 1, which ultimately led to Grayson creating the Red X persona. Season 2 was Judas Contract. Season 3 with Cyborg was Technus Imperative, mostly. Season 4 was Trigon the Terrible. And season 5 technically wasn't part of a main storyline, but it was amalgamation of a few smaller stories.
It felt like also they just took ideas from the 03 comic book series, which launched at the same time.
Yep, they did have a tie-in comic, so take what you will on season 5.
Yeah, and also,
season 5
did you know that the same tower used for the show was also used in the comic as well?
Yes.
Except the city was different. In the comic, it was San Francisco, and the show was fictional. It was his city name for the show. I think it was Techno City, if I remember city, right? I think that's what they was in the show, Techno City.
Techno City, Jump City, something like that.
Yeah, which in the comic was San Francisco. Which, fun fact, Ben Percy's run brought back that tower for his run. And then that tower disappeared. It showed up once in Flash after the run wrapped up. Hasn't been seen since then.
Wait, didn't it get destroyed in Super Sons of Tomorrow, or was it rebuilt?
It was rebuilt.
Okay.
It was perfectly fine by the time Ben Percy after the run. It was damaged, wasn't destroyed. It did get fixed. And then it seems Adam Glasgow's book, like, nope, let's not use the Titans Tower. Let's have the Titans move to a freaking warehouse.
In New Jersey.
Yes. And also, let's not have the Titans headquartered at their own tower in New York. Let's have them in the basement of the Hall of Justice.
But be that as it may, Trouble in Tokyo was not part of an overarching comic book. Trouble in Tokyo was an original story for the most part.
Yeah, it took place after the show, and this is also the first time where Starfire and Robin kissed.
Yep. So it's a pretty solid series. I highly, highly recommend it. It does have its pitfalls. It does have about 20, maybe 30% filler sprinkled in, but there are so many Easter eggs. So if you're a comic book fan and you're going through it, especially on a rewatch, you're going to at least get one Easter egg every episode, at least one.
Yeah. I actually watched most of it when it was on the air.
So did I. But back to our main topic, finally. Would you say 3 years was a little too soon?
Wrap this up because it's almost midnight.
Yeah, we definitely should. But would you say 3 years was too soon for any entanglement for Bruce and Selina after everything that happened with Tom King, 5G? Would you say 3 years was too soon?
Well, this crossline came out last year. They broke up in 2018. So it'd been like 5 years.
Okay, 5. Fair enough.
I think it wasn't handled properly at all, and I don't think they're an item currently right now.
I again, I'm not the biggest fan on shipping. All I know is that Selina's doing her own thing in her own book. Bruce is doing his and is losing his mind to Zernar
and Failsafe, which he's back. He came back in the recent issue, which I thought Failsafe was destroyed.
Failsafe, apparently, I believe it was explained in a backup. Zernar programmed a copy of himself or the copy of that personality somehow into Failsafe. But the original programming was to kill Bruce on the off chance he went rogue.
It's almost like basically this whole run so far for Zdarsky is focused on Zorar. It's not like a second Stark had it where he goes in ultra reality.
He did have He did. He did have a multiverse arc that lasted about 10 issues.
It was a quick 6-issue story arc, and the conclusion of this happened in Batman 900, which had those multiple artists and had to meet the Adam West Batman. Which is the first time comic-wise that he's been seen since, I think, the Batman 6 Archie series.
Really?
I think it was last time he was featured because mostly he had an ongoing series lasted for 30 issues, had many team-ups, Green Hornet, the British Avenger, the Avengers, but they couldn't call it Avengers, they call it Mr. I think it was Emma Seed, Mr. Seed and Emma Peel, Man from Uncle, Wonder Woman 77, Archie, and that was it. Once all those crossovers out, plus that one ongoing series. Oh, there was also that Lost episode special they did with it, where they adapted an actual Lost episode for the show, where this is supposed to feature the first ever live action version of Two-Face. And do you know who was set to play him in the episode where they canceled it?
Who?
Clint Eastwood.
What?
Yes.
Wait, what led to the episode falling through? Like, I'm curious now.
The reason why, because of the Two-Face character, he would not be appropriate for the show, the campiness to show, because of his face, because he's too grotesque. And then they finally featured him in Canada's show with Return of the Cape Crusaders, except he's voiced by William Shatner.
Not my first choice, but I understand given circumstances.
Well, it makes sense. Well, feature a Star Trek crossover. Here we go. We have William Shatner play a Batman villain. Though I still wish we could have got a Batman 66 meets Star Trek original series comic. That would have been perfect.
Wasted opportunity, in my opinion.
It's like, why they've had all this time to do this thing. I mean, they've had crossovers with IDW before. I mean, they have Batman crossover with the Turtles. How hard is it? Back, especially since they're owned by the same people. Star Trek and Turtles is owned by Viacom, which is on Paramount Plus.
Yep.
So I'm not sure why this hasn't happened yet, but this would have been an interesting idea. Both series started at the same time, they'll end at the same time. Still got cult following this very day, though I think Star Trek is bigger than Batman 66, but I could see it working. Just do a comic of it. You don't have to do a live action thing because for Star Trek, half the actors are dead. Same thing about Batman 66. Just do a comic version.
I agree.
But who would write it? That's the question. Jeff Parker might be the obvious choice because he wrote a lot of the series, but excuse me, if I would choose somebody, I would pick the Tiptons. The Tiptons.
The ones that did. Okay.
Yeah, because they did those really good Star Trek Mirror Universe comics, and they also did the crossovers with Star Trek with Doctor Who and Planet of the Apes.
I agree.
This would work. I mean, Planet of the Apes makes sense because the first movie came out in the 60s, so makes total sense. So have these guys write it. And I would bring in the regular artists who actually drew the main comic, or you can have Mike Ultra do the artwork.
I agree.
That's what I would choose. Though I think a lot of the cover art for that book is done by Alex Ross.
Hold on. I was looking for something. Ah, here it is. Final thoughts. As for me, look, I'm not a big fan of shipping or anything like that, but based on what we actually got, Gotham War was atrocious, and the biggest downgrade of Gotham Knights was the Batman Catwoman subplot. It really didn't need to be here. You could have made it like a brief epilogue or an Omega issue and had Selina have these misgivings, and then say, Selina, you left.
But halfway through the storyline, that's the problem.
It took up half the event. Like, if you just gave Selina a tie-in or two and it was mostly resolved within that, okay, that's not so bad. And even in that context, Selena doesn't even have the right to be a jilted lover in this contest. You left
Except with
him.
like cross between the two books, Batman, Catwoman. Like they cross with each other for this whole thing. To the comics, nothing to do with it at all. To the comics is still Ram V doing his whole Gotham Nocturnal stuff. Though I think upcoming is going to do Batman on the Run from the Law.
Wait, did I
Wait,
say
no,
Detective Comics?
Yeah, you said to the comics, so you thought that was tying this run. It wasn't.
Okay, sorry, I meant to say Batman and Catwoman. I don't know how I said Detective Comics. My mistake.
Yeah, and that means he's here in the storyline, but his book is not part of it. His book
And all
is doing
Nightwing. Yeah.
he's doing his own thing. So he does not need part of this book, even though he's here.
And I feel like the biggest misconception of Gotham Knights is that the Bat family supports Selina's villainy and rallying goons. Like,
The only one who supports is Jason Todd.
only one. They just chose to stay neutral because at the end of the day, this was just a lover spat with the majority of Gotham caught in the middle. They saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah, and there's a Red Hood series out now where it explores what happened in this book and the end of Red Hood Outlaw.
Yep.
It's kind of odd. And the weird thing about Red Hood Outlaw, the last two issues were never collected in trade.
Nope.
Which is weird. You would have thought that they would collect in the the main trades. Nope. One or two times I've seen it for Rebirth books where the final issues are not in trade. Guess what the other book is?
What?
Cyborg.
Oh.
The final issues of that book are not in trade either.
I forgot Cyborg had a mini comic during Rebirth.
It was ongoing. Lasted for 23 issues. And I think that when it got canceled, I think some people didn't know it got canceled. It just stopped publishing. Like there was an article, there was a blink you miss it. Like, oh, this comic was canceled. We announced to cancel at issue 23, and it just basically DC just did not care at all about this book. Because John Stampa, the guy who was driving the book, had an interesting storyline, but it just dragged on for too long. And I felt as though when he ended this run, I felt as though the story was just rushed to conclusion, and we had Marv Wolfman come back to the book, which, okay. And his was actually pretty good. I felt as though New Writer had a fresh take of the book, and then, book ends. Really? I know he had a book recently, like last year, but that book is since wrapped up. It was just a mini series for Don DCU.
Yep. I have to check that book out because I kind of
it's weird the fact that they gave him one like I get the reason why the first time he had one, which because he never had one before, but now what was the reason for the series? It was kind of the same thing with Steelworks. Steelworks felt the same way. Like, what was the point of Steelworks?
Now, Steelworks I didn't really mind too much because these miniseries allow new creatives contracted with DC to test the waters. That's now not really ranking on Jared Williams too hard because again these
Steelworks written by Star Trek actor Michael Dorn, which is strange because I think this is the first comic he's ever written.
I want to say this is his first comic credit.
As far as I can tell, it is. I know he's done voiceover work too. I don't know if he's had writing experience that I can think of prior to this book coming out because I can't think of anything he's written.
If this is his first comic, he did a pretty decent job. Now, it was a little bloated towards the end because he kind of went too far with the corporate side, saying that the villain of this arc was essentially a businessman who made a bad business deal, tried to sue, which led to Henry Irons exploiting a loophole in the contract. The CEO tried to sue him out of spite. It was a losing legal battle, and in the proceeds, he nearly ran the company to the ground.
Yeah, and plus, I described the book as damage control without the humor.
Pretty much. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, and some of the other books like Superboy, The Superboy book I actually felt was necessary because why not feature him for Connor Kent? Though some people didn't like the first issue because they described Connor as a fascist. And I heard this like, what book are you reading? Because that's not the book I read.
Wait, wasn't Superboy Boy of Tomorrow the round robin winner that got delayed for 2 years?
No, that was the Round miniseries that featured all the Robins, including Stephanie.
No, the contest was called Round Robin. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but it focused on the Robins,
Okay.
not Superboy. Though one thing at least that the current continuity does to keep canon is that he's Tim Drake's best friend.
Yep. But
Yeah,
Connor did get a miniseries, and it's supposed to take place before Action Comics, where Connor traverses the galaxy. It basically is a retread of what Tim Drake was doing. The only difference is he doesn't drag the super family into it. He kind of just storms off on his own and he gets in over his head. That's basically the gist of the story.
Yeah. At least not disappointing as the Adventures of Superman John Kent miniseries.
Oh God, I almost forgot that existed.
What was the point of this thing? Like, oh, he gets electrical powers, and he's going to fight the Ultraman, and he's going to go to Justice Earth, and then the whole storyline with Ultraman, he gets killed off halfway through it, and then he spends time on the Justice Earth, and some people pointed to him hugging Superman as downfall. I do agree with the actual reason why the book fell apart. Him being thrown into a portal by Cyborg. And like, what was the point of this book? Nothing.
It doesn't affect the Injustice saga in any way. It's kind of a footnote, but I get using Injustice as a selling point rather than John's personal beef with Ultraman. I understand.
Wrote the comics, so it makes sense for him to do this.
It doesn't. There was no objective way you can make it work without throwing Ultraman under the bus.
Featuring is the Injustice thing. That was probably Tom Taylor's idea because he wrote the Injustice comics. Well, the first 2 years in year 5 forward, he didn't do 3 or 4. That was, I think, it was Brian Bucciolato who did those 2 years. Yeah, Bucciolato did those 2 years. Which year 4 and 5 were not as good as 1, 2, and 5.
I agree with you on that. Years 3 and 4 were kind of the weakest part of the Injustice saga. So I'll give you that. They can
do like supernatural stuff, like they kill off the Spectre, and he gets replaced by Dick Grayson, who got killed off in year 1. He got killed off. Yeah, like how? Like it also Spectre went freaking nuts because apparently Mixie took control of Spectre and killed everybody. He killed like all the supernatural characters for no reason. Oh, because it's not featured in Justice Games, so kill off these characters for no reason. Like, oh yeah, let's see it where Kyle Rayner in the opening issue of year 2 gets ripped apart by the Master Corps. What? It's like Tom Taylor just gets away with the fact, oh yeah, let's use gore because basically it's not canon in the main continuity. Well, let's have also Guy Gardner get his neck snapped by Hal Jordan for alleged killing Jon Stewart. And also this also explains how he became a Yellow Lantern.
But back to the death of Nightwing. The death of Nightwing was basically the whole thing stems from a throwaway line of Bruce blaming and resenting Damian for the death of Grayson. Now, granted, you could feel as much as you want. It's an Elseworld story, so it doesn't affect canon anyway. But even in the context of it being a tragic accident, it's literally Robin losing his temper in the field, throwing his baton out of spite because of a bad habit he picked up, and all of a sudden Nightwing not using an entire lifetime of muscle memory to dodge or deflect it out of the way. It was just a random beat where he wasn't paying attention.
And he hit his head on
No. Okay, in the movie, it was blunt force trauma instant. But in the comic, he's just knocked out. He just happens to land his neck at just the right angle. And he cracks it on a stone. A piece of debris, frankly.
Yeah. It's like, I think Tom Taylor just didn't know how to kill him off.
At least when Grant Morrison did it,
this was a freak accident. That's what I described this. This was a freak accident. I don't think that Damian did this on purpose. It's just that he probably blamed himself because he inadvertently caused Dick Grayson's death.
Yes, and he developed a bit of a victim complex, similar to Anakin Skywalker in the prequels, but that's a separate conversation for a different day.
And then he dug up the identity wing after his death.
Technically, Grayson gave it to him in the Year 5 comics, but semantics.
Yeah, which you play the game and like everyone thinks, oh, is that Dick Grayson? It's like, nope, that's his son Damian Wayne, who's aged up. Okay.
And
yeah, and also they featured in one of the annuals. They have Steve Trevor here. I was wondering where the heck he was. Oh, he was German spy. Let's the one who would murder basically a guy who's supposed to be your boyfriend.
And then pretty much be a bitter man hater for decades. Finally gets a change of perspective of the Justice Society, falls in love with Clark, and then actively is the devil on his shoulder as he spirals into tyranny.
Yeah, and this all started in the book, all because this is something that was mentioned in the game. All because the Joker hallucinogen in his head that caused him to believe Lois Lane was Doomsday.
A kryptonite fear toxin cocktail.
And also the fact it was revealed that Lois was pregnant. That's the thing that even more. So he kills a Mortal Kombat style with his hand through his chest.
And had a WMD linked to Lois's heartbeat. So he lost his wife, he lost his unborn child. They basically held Jordan Superman.
Yeah, but Superman has never done this in any comic except for this. Which, by the way, they showed this in the flashback in Justice 1 of him killing Joker.
Yep.
Which, in the game, they'll explain why people wearing armor, like having where Joker wears his like this metal on his suit. In the game, there's no reason why he wears it, just because it looks cool. But anyways.
Yeah, we're coming up at the 3-hour mark. But anything else you want to say about that?
It's like one of our live shows.
To be fair, I didn't expect this to go on this long, not going to lie.
Yeah, we had a lot of our stuff to talk about anyways.
But
we can talk all day about various different stuff. Comics, anime, manga. There's a bunch of comics here we can talk about. Comics is probably one thing we could talk a lot about. We could talk about that for hours and not finish.
Oh,
there is so much to talk about when it comes to comics.
But if there was last topic and then we'll wrap it up. If there's one thing I cannot defend is, well, two comics I should say, is Megan Fitzmartin's Tim Drake Robin and Dark Crisis Young Justice. I'm sorry, I just can't defend it. Correct me. Hey, if you have a counter argument, by all means, I'll be happy to debate with you.
Tim Drake Robin was just pure awfulness at its finest. Dark Crisis Young Justice. The only thing that's over Robin has got better artwork.
It does have better artwork, but having Mixoplex have a son and then talking about how, the good old days and nostalgia. Yeah, I get the toxic nostalgia concept, but one, you're not tackling it very well. Two, it's been done better and more nuanced. Infinite Crisis. And more so, you're just basically bad-mouthing your detractors in contrast to what you've previously written. Nothing in the story makes sense. There's no reason for Tim, Bart. The only one who should really have an insecurity here is Connor, because he was fundamentally replaced. He's the only one that should be having this insecurity in this context. Tim had insecurity towards Damian to a degree, but by the time Rebirth rolled around, he had largely grown out of it. And Bart's just Bart. He'd be chilling half the time.
Yeah. Of course, he was Kid Flash pre-Flashpoint. Now, Wallace West is Kid Flash now.
And I feel like now Impulse. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's back with Impulse now, even though that in pre-Flashpoint, I think Irie was Impulse.
Yes. If I remember correctly, yes.
Which begs the question: what's the current code name of the current continuity? They were working on that, and they haven't got.
I think they gave her Thunderheart. I believe it was in a Flash 1 Minute War.
Yeah, and also the fact that her brother can basically use Speed Force powers to basically make a clap the class a mountain. All because Power Girl taught him how to do that.
Basically, the Strength Force before the Strength Force was a thing.
Yep.
Sorry, someone was gonna make that joke for the end of the video. I'm sorry.
And I had to bring it. I did ask this to Jim Palmiani. Like, there was a recurring joke for years about an artist who kept drawing Power Girl's chest really, really big. And he's like, yeah, that was Wally Wood who did that.
He did it despite editorial. He did it every chance he got.
Yeah, and there was also something also about how long is Starfire's hair?
Ugh.
We should wrap up here because it's almost exactly midnight.
Yeah, this is a good time to wrap it up. But Nick, any promos, anything you got coming up on the channel, and just any thoughts on Batman, Catwoman, just anything you want to say, buddy? Go ahead.
I got some videos coming up tomorrow, like some anime I was going to do today, but this basically hold off till tomorrow, and some more of Metal Heroes because I'm viewing the third and final series under the Space Sheriff banner, Space Sheriff Cider.
Nice. Excuse you.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you want to address?
No. Good.
Okay. As for me, as of next week, January 15th, I am going to do my official review on Gotham Knights, the TV show, joined by Nick Lenz, Taladia, and Jared. So you guys are going to watch me react to the Gotham Knights TV show live. If this show can't break me, nothing will. But other than that, I got some Swoltor playthroughs coming up, some New Direction Verse videos. I'm actually gonna have pre-recorded, actually catch up. That way we can move on with a new volume. And even some original ideas, such as Wasted Potential. If you actually remember my original Wasted Potential DC under the DCU a while back, that was kind of like a prelude. And the next one is actually going to be based off Respawn, the second clone of Damian Wayne. So you want to see what that one's about?
Who's got the blood of Deathstroke and Talia.
Indeed. That's the one.
Yeah, which makes him basically the not only kind of in the way Damian's half brother, but he's also the half brother to Rose, and make him Deathstroke's third son,
who also was
shelved, and Joseph,
who was also shelved tragically.
Yeah, he's Josh Williams' character.
Yeah, but okay, isn't that weird that basically both two out of his three sons were shelved in almost the exact same way?
Yeah.
One was one didn't inherit Slade's healing factor. The other did.
Except that his younger son couldn't heal his throat after his throat was slit.
Hmm.
But later on, it got fixed.
But hey, if we go down this rabbit hole, we'll be here all night. So we might as well just wrap it up. But like, comment, and subscribe. You've been a terrific audience. Flame off.